All right, Kingkillers, we're covering chapters 56 through 59 in this episode. We discussed the difference between granted versus inherent power, meet the extremely interesting Bredon, see how sick the Maer is, and we find out that he's being poisoned by Caudicus. We're also going to discuss why it's not outlandish to be good at sex on your first try, what exactly makes Bast think a set of ears are perfect, and what the Amyr think of old Gabby Caudicus. So sit back and enjoy. All right, welcome back to the Kingkiller podcast. Got with me Tim. How you doing, Tim? Looks like you shaved your eyebrows today. It's a good look.
Going for the Abinthy special. That's what I asked him. I went to the barbershop. I said, "Give me the Abinthy," and he winked. He gave me a wink.
He was like, "Oh yeah, Benny Nobrow. You want a Timmy Nobrow?"
He didn't even touch my head up. He just. It was like Coming to America. He literally just took off the eyebrows, said, "That'll be $47."
Yeah, that's fucking dope.
Yeah, I'm glad you noticed.
Yeah, it's a good look. I like it. You look a lot better.
Yeah, my kids
didn't like
think
your
it's
eyebrows.
Hilarious. Thanks.
Yeah, they look kind of stupid.
I don't like your eyebrows. It's a weird thing to even be like complimented or. Well, I guess anything to be complimented.
It's something to say to a stranger first time you meet him every time. What's up with your eyebrows? Like, why do they look like that?
Someone who's never, it never comes up. And it has to be someone who doesn't have like a unibrow, something that's totally normal.
Yeah.
That's
so
when
you just deadpan it and then leave them to like go about the rest of their lives wondering what's up with their eyebrows.
Yeah. It's definitely... What's up with your eyebrows? Why do they look like that? And then whatever they respond,
yeah, you got, especially if you got someone else with you who can be like, "Oh yeah, I've never noticed that before. Have they always looked like that?" It's really psychologically torment some random person,
really
having self-conscious as shit for the rest of his life over his eyebrows. Next time you see him, like he's like got his eyebrows like fucking done at a place where they're like waxing them and
well, here's the thing. If he goes, this person goes to somebody they know. Like, did you notice anything? And if they're looking closely, they might be like, yeah, maybe. I don't know. Remember, so you still wouldn't even get that much confidence from people you know because, I don't know, you don't look at fucking people's eyebrows.
Remember before you moved to Los Angeles and I came back home and I ran into one of our friends, and I think you were living with him at the time, and I like walked in and I hadn't seen him in a few years, and so like I walked in and he had like his eyebrows were like all shaved, and I mean it looked like he was trying to fix his eyebrows blue. But he mangled them really badly, bluish. And I was like what happened to your eyebrows, man? And like everybody got real quiet and uncomfortable because it was like I clearly touched on a sore spot. And I was like, well, why'd you do that? Don't shave your eyebrows. You look fucking weird, man. Stop doing that.
I distinctly remember because you even turned like, is no one else telling you this?
Yeah.
Other people should be telling you this.
Yeah, someone's got to tell you like to stop. Like that's super weird looking. Like so you're too self-conscious and someone needs to stop you from, mangling your face.
That's definitely the case. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's definitely, and they were started looking like even like blue-ish. It was weird.
Yeah. It's kind of like that, person who keeps having way too much plastic surgery. Like one of their friends should have been like, no more.
Yeah, at some point.
Stop doing that. You gotta stop that. But, so you got our intro with learning about your hosts and some of the mean things we've said to people.
The eyebrow etiquette over here.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't really,
lack
I
thereof.
didn't have that plan that we would have a big eyebrow discussion, but that's how we do. So we're starting with chapter 56, which is titled Power. And in this chapter, the Maer and Kvothe walk through the garden and they talk about the difference between inherent and granted power. And then Kvothe is left in his room to kind of stew and wait for the Maer to call on him again.
Yeah, this is something that kind of looms large over their relationship for quite a while. They kind of debate this back and forth. It's not necessarily a debate. I mean, it is, but it's also like I don't know. It's just sort of it's an analytical topic that they tease out over time, that there isn't really necessarily an answer to whether one is stronger than, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it is in the sense that one is given, the other's, sort of born into, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but it's interesting the way they tease it out, because it also pits the two of them in a way against one another, and it plays out the caste system of the world as well.
Well, it's interesting because Kvothe mentions this was obviously the Maer kind of testing him, trying to learn about him, trying to get his feel for his personality and his opinions about different things. So, it's an interesting way to kind of learn about someone's personality through just kind of asking them questions and, giving them your philosophical view on kind of random topics, and then just seeing where the conversation goes.
Yeah, I like the Maer. He's a really interesting character because Rothfuss did a really good job of creating what would make sense for someone in the position that he's in. And he can be pretty vicious at times, but he's actually quite open-minded for someone in a position like himself. And he's even cognizant of sort of the old adage, absolute power corrupts absolutely. He acknowledges the fact that he had yes men around him when he was younger, and that wasn't necessarily a good thing, but it made total sense because of how much power he had. And that's where he sort of waxes about, and it's not necessarily in this chapter, but he waxes about how that having power can be quite negative in certain ways.
Yeah, you see it like when someone, when like Kvothe pisses him off, like you see like, oh, this guy's, it's not just he's going to be mad at you and he's going to give you the silent treatment. This guy, if you piss him off too bad, he'll kill you.
Well, but even looking at it from the Mayor's perspective, in terms of where power is a problem for the individual that has it, who's your friend? Like, legitimately, you know what I mean? Who can you trust? It's like when someone, becomes extravagantly rich, the people around them aren't necessarily their friends anymore. They're friends because of his money or the prestige or the fame, what have you. He kind of speaks to that to a degree, where he's kind of lamenting his own issues that he has, and Kvothe, even in his own mind, is like, yeah, man, it's hard for me to feel bad for someone that's born into all this wealth, but even to a degree. And I think part of what sort of painted that moment for Kvothe was like, he's also talking to someone who's like literally slowly dying, because it was when he was like really ill. But yeah, I'm kind of getting ahead. But what I'm sort of trying to speak to is what this chapter is about that. The dichotomy of that power and how it's an interesting thing to tease out. And this is part of what is so great about book 2, is that thematically Rothfuss goes so many different directions, in terms of psychology and the way the world works for completely different cultures. It's pretty great.
Yeah. And obviously it's a completely different stratosphere for the Maer. Like, part of what makes his situation difficult is his power is largely relying upon the acquiescence of everybody else. People, like, if people just decided like, no more of this shit, I'm not putting up with this dude, there's nothing he could do. He's one man against the entire city. If they turned on him, it's over. So he has to balance the fact that he's trying to force people to do things that they don't necessarily want to do. He's trying to rule them, and he needs them to fear him, to feel that they need him, and rely upon him. So he's got to walk this line of being intimidating, being charismatic, being someone who is looked up upon, who's seen as powerful, who's seen as dangerous, who's seen as caring. He's got to walk and balance between all these different things to kind of, ebb and flow between people feeling he's a good ruler, but also feeling he's a dangerous ruler, that you can't cross this dude. So he's got to walk that line. So that would be a very hard situation, because you can't for what he's doing, what he's trying to do, he can't just be like, just shoot me straight. He can't just have people fucking questioning him and fucking calling him out and all that kind of shit. It's gotta, because like if people saw him getting called out and he's just fucking bowing down and everything, you're not going to get like, oh well, he's so smart that he listens to everybody. It's going to be the people who would see that as weakness are dangerous to him, and they will use that against him. And so he has to walk that balance between making sure those people don't take over, and also still having someone like Kvothe or Stape that can come to him and tell him a hard truth, because he still needs that, but it's got to be a delicate balance. It can't just be, all completely out in the open.
Yeah, this is one of those things, this sort of, these complications it's one of those examples that actually brings sensibility to why there is the court and all the formalities in the court. There's a reason at the base of it. And it's kind of what you're just talking about. Yeah. You can allow people to be close, and then you go through the motions. You go through these particular motions, and it seems ridiculous to the common man, because it's like, what the fuck are they doing? Like, you would mostly, and like, you think about old, well, I know you don't like old American movies, but old movies, so, sort of the more respected character is the one who does shoot it straight, who is honest with people up front, no matter how brash. That's the guy you like. That's the John Wayne character, what have you. You can't really be that in this position. You can't just run roughshod over everybody, because then you're going to have a revolt. It's an interesting dichotomy, especially when you bring in King Roderick, because when you bring in King Roderick and then that whole dynamic as well, that's where it gets really even further, another wrinkle that makes it even more interesting. But yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. This world, as soon as he goes into his castle, so to speak, the entire book changes. Everything changes.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it a lot, because I like the stuff with the Maer. And I like Stapes,
with Caudicus, with the rings, with Bredon, and all of it. And Kvothe sort of having to play the game, but playing it extraordinarily well. Like, he's prepared for this. Like he does tremendously well with the Maer, and he even almost stepping a bit too far. That's kind of how we end this group of chapters, which is really great. You kind of picked a good group here because of where it actually ends off in that big cliffhanger. Leading up to it, he's having to pivot and to be careful. But it's so interesting too, because the Maer needs Kvothe in particular ways. And they have to dance that out, because they can't just come out and say what he needs, or he looks, vulnerable. And then he is actually physically vulnerable at the same time, right? With his illness. It's so fucking interesting the way Rothfuss chose to do it.
And I like this conversation on inherent versus granted power, because it is very much the dichotomy between the Maer and Kvothe as far as what they are relying on. Kvothe is constantly trying to develop his inherent power. Like, he's trying to learn magic. He's trying to gain skills and knowledge. And it's not about, getting, the right friends in the right places and building an army to go after the Chandri. And he's internally trying to improve himself and become powerful enough to take them on himself. Whereas the Maer relies almost entirely on granted power.
Yeah, I mean, Kvothe is skill upon skill upon skill. And what's so interesting about that, too, when we talk inherent, if he's the bloodline, right, of Ilion and going all the way back to the Ruach, and he's even the bloodline of Ajax, if it goes back that far, talk about inherent power. It's just about developing it, you know? And we've talked about it so many times. If he's being pulled in that direction, he kind of can just let go, perhaps, but that's not the way he is. He's like a man of action, right? And he literally is building skill upon skill upon skill to get himself into that position. Yeah, it's great. It's a great dynamic to play back and forth between the two of them.
Yeah, and I think the Maer kind of oversteps with how limited he thinks inherent power is versus granted power, because he's like, you know, our power has limits we can stand, but not indefinitely. But the problem with that is the Maer could recruit all the men he wants to go into the Fae and try to capture Florian, and they're going to fail. He could send 100 men, and they're all going to fucking die. But Kvothe goes in there just with his power, his inherent power, and he's able to, you know, put her in a situation where he could have killed her if he wanted to. And so the Maer, you know, okay, you could say, well, he could get Kvothe to do it for him. Yeah, but maybe. Like, I mean,
I don't think Kvothe
you could come up with
a
situation where, yeah, you know, Kvothe does this for him, but Kvothe can do it already. He doesn't need anybody else. He's not. The Maer is relying on being able to convince someone to do these things for him, whereas Kvothe is just able to do it himself. He doesn't need to rely on anybody. So in some situations, the inherent power is the much preferable situation. Like if you are really proficient at something where you're better than, you know, everybody else, or you're better than most people, if that task needs to be done, then you'd rather have the inherent power in that situation, because with the granted power, you're relying on finding someone who can accomplish that task for you, and not only finding someone, finding someone who will do it for you. They have to be willing to do it. You have to convince them, because, you know, look how hard it was for him to find Kvothe to get Mellowin for him. And so,
well, and the other thing is, this guy could fuck you over. He could stab you in the back at some point. And that's where the power has to be vicious enough, right? What you'll lose, what he would lose in fucking him over. You picked an interesting example though with Florian, because if Kvothe went in there with an agenda, I don't think it would have worked out.
No.
You know what I mean? Because like, there's so much nuance. There's so much emotional nuance involved with that whole sort of dance that they do. The whole, because he
would have got in his head.
Yeah, I was going to say, because there's so much fear. He's real zen in that situation where, I mean, the amount of like fear that's the backbone of what he keeps falling back to. He's a fallback position constantly with his consciousness in what he's doing with her. And when he allows himself to relax, he does it consciously, right? So it's such a fucking interesting, I shouldn't say bothers me, but it's so strange that people dislike that section of the book as much as they do. I read that a lot, or I'm confronted with that a lot online, that they think it's just so ridiculous and so unrealistic. It's a fucking fantasy novel.
Yeah.
Like, wait, what the shit, man? Like, lighten up. Well, I mean, that's kind of my take on it. It's like, geez,
you know, usually the people complain about it, they're like, oh, yeah, so he had sex, you know, and the first time he's good. It's like, well, how complicated are you making sex out to be, man?
Yeah,
it ain't that fucking hard. What the fuck are you doing, man?
That's a really valid point, man. That's a really valid point. It's not that complicated. Yeah, no. It's really not. We're kind of built for this.
Yeah.
Right?
We all are. People have been fucking for a long time, man. This is not like some Olympic event.
Don't fight it.
Anybody can do it.
Stop fighting it. Just allow it to happen, right? And that's what Kvothe does. A lot of allowing. He gets zen, and he just taps into the secret and allows it to happen. And, you know, and then she teaches him as well. She's a very good teacher.
Yeah. I mean,
50 fingers and all that shit.
Yeah, especially as long as you got a little bit of rhythm, you should be fine. You should be okay. You know, it's not gonna be that hard for you.
Just enjoy it.
don't get so hung up on, like you're taking this TV comedic series too seriously, like where everybody is just terrible the first time. It's like, that was
so
my experience. It was not some super awkward, like, oh, where does this go? Like, it was not that. It's not that awkward.
Yeah. So I guess if we're really trying to give advice in this realm, is allow the technique to come to you. You'll be fine.
Yeah. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. I mean, technically, but riding a bike, you fall down, you get hurt. You're not going to get hurt doing the shit. You're not going to fall down either. You'll be fine.
You're not gonna all of a sudden like, oh, that's my ear.
I twisted my ankle. Yeah. You might cramp up, but that usually only happens when you get older. So you'll be all right. As long as you start in your teens and 20s, you'll be fine.
Even if you 40-year-old virgin it, I feel confident you'll be just like him and you'll nail
it. Literally.
I
like so he's been peppering in Rothfuss has been peppering in the ADEM, and Kvothe again uses it here as an example of an ADEM warrior with only one hand might be more deadly than a common warrior with two, Your Grace, despite his deficiency. True. And then, the Maer does not back down. That's one character trait we get really clearly here, is like he did bring up the subject, if I remember right. So he brings up the subject to test Kvothe, and then he has point to layer towards Kvothe and convince him. It is pretty great. Like you said earlier, it's a great way to test Kvothe, because Kvothe shows he doesn't just roll over for, whatever the subject matter is. He's going to defend his position, and also he's also very respectful in respecting the Mayor's opinion. There's a lot of positioning.
Yeah, and I like the fact that he brings up the ADEM, and you get a little bit of he's doing that thing where he's introducing you to a group that is going to be brought in later, and he's just slowly but surely just kind of giving you a feel for these people, like starting to, okay, these are supposed to be badass warriors. Den has mentioned it. Now the Maer and Kvothe have talked about it, and Sim and Will and Kvothe have talked about it
for a handful of chapters.
Yeah.
We've heard about their clothes,
keep bringing it up.
Red,
they're fidgety. They don't talk. They don't.
They save their words.
Yeah.
They save their words for.
They got. He's mentioned the Lithani. Yeah. So he's slowly but surely building them out so that when he introduces them later on, he doesn't need to just go into complete exposition where he gives you the entire backstory of the ADEM culture. He's starting to kind of give you and he's doing the what is done with the books, where it's the myth versus the truth.
Yeah.
And so we're hearing the myth, and we're going to learn the truth later on about who they actually are.
It's great, and it's hard to argue, but it seems very necessary, especially in this case, because they are so complicated and they're so different. And because if there was, how different they are, if it just boom, we get right into it, and now we need to learn all these things right in a row. It's overwhelming, and like you said, it'd be a lot of exposition, which could probably slow down also the pace of the reading. It's tremendous the way he does it, and I think I remember like for the first read through, it's like, yeah, what is this? And clearly we're going there. Clearly we're going to see more of these people. Why would he keep mentioning it? But he's using it as an example, like, and even Kvothe in this discussion is using it as an example of, for his own argument. So we're getting that. It kind of just feeds into like our own subconscious understanding of what they'll represent. It's fucking great, man. Rothfuss he's pretty good at this writing shit.
I also like that he talks about like, but if you send 3 men against him, he can't stand against that. And then Tempe just lays waste to 3 people in like 3 seconds. But to Kavoth's credit, he doesn't pull a you and Sim with and actually, what if he did take out 3 people? Like, okay, then 30, 100, whatever. Like, you get my point, man.
What always I come back to when you mention something like that, I always come back to like, and he's like the worst out of them, Tempe. You know,
Yeah.
like he's not even like,
he's low level. He's not the worst, but he's in the lower rungs. He's not high.
It's wild to like consider, and we get a lot of it once we
annihilates those three mercenaries in a bar. And like when he fights Tempe, he just starts slapping him across the face, and Tempe's like, "What the fuck? Did you just slap me?"
You mean Daydan?
Oh yeah. Who did I say?
You said Tempe.
Oh yeah, no. With Tempe, he's fighting Daydan. Yeah.
Again, and then I mean we're getting way ahead, but who gives a shit? It's so geniusly like with the Lithani, not the Lithani, the stretching thing he does. That's not the Lithani. It's
the Katan.
What the fuck it is? Yeah. When doing that, we get like an intricate understanding of the point is no wasted motion, like always intricately and tight wound, and like everything is 100%. It kind of reminds you of like a Bruce Lee type of ideology.
Yeah,
and you experience it in the book and you buy it. It makes total sense. Plus, I mean, he's smashing these people. What are you gonna argue with that? That's what happened, But yeah, it's fucking great, man. Such a cool. And again, I think book 2 beats book 1, man. It's so wider. It's so much bigger culturally. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you don't like the wider scope and you don't like the changing of the cultures and stuff, you're probably going to prefer book 1. But if you like the world getting bigger and these different cultures and learn about them and learn how the different power structures work, then book 2 gives you more of that. And so it's that's both of them are great though. They're not, neither of them are weak books. And so
don't get me wrong. I mean,
I don't like someone who prefers book 1. It's like doesn't surprise me. It's a matter of taste, but they're both phenomenal.
I feel like I'm building my case a lot in this, but it doesn't have Him's Hotfoot, granted, that's fucking the shit, the horns and Elodin and all that.
They're both phenomenal books. There's just I have a slight preference for this just because I like these change of sceneries. I like the different cultures and getting into the Fae. I like that stuff.
But also, I mean, the mercenaries, when he goes out there and then, the arrows and all that shit, it's fantastic. But I was just going to say, we get eventually, I mean, I'm kind of jumping ahead, but we get to the Celis flowers, and I immediately thought of, Denna's ears, those soft, floppy ears.
Unspeakably soft.
Yeah.
I thought of Denna.
Well, I assume the thought was her ears are unspeakably soft. Yeah,
she's got no cartilage in her ears. Super soft.
Seems like they would they would droop a lot if that was the case.
Yeah, Bast has got super weird taste in ears. Like the perfect ears for him, no cartilage. They just flop around.
Dragging?
Yeah.
Just dragging around?
Yeah.
Maybe that was the problem with her nose. Said her nose was crooked. Maybe her nose is short of cartilage.
Nah, I think it would be too much cartilage. He's just like, I like a good mushy nose.
Well, wait, that would mean it has cartilage. I'm getting confused here.
I'm saying that Bast doesn't like cartilage, so he would want like no cartilage where the nose is like can easily move around and mushy, and it's like more like Play-Doh. You can just kind of like move it around. That's Bast's thing.
He's like silly.
It's in there. Face. It's in there. It's in it's in the book. He hates cartilage. Yeah.
He hates cartilage. So when someone asks you to describe Bast, you give a list of like Fae, assistant to Coat, hates cartilage. It's on the list.
Weirdly hates cartilage. If you're recommending the books to people, that's the thing you should point out the most about Bast is that he's got a weird thing about cartilage. And then let them find that it's hidden deep.
I wonder, and when Rothfuss was hanging out at all these strip clubs, writing this book, is his favorite strippers, they probably just have the best ears, the best hands.
Yeah.
Because that's his thing, right? So just ears and hands. All about both of those things.
Can you cover up? It's distracting me from your better qualities.
Just like literally wearing like head dresses but ears out.
Stop
ears
rubbing
uncovered.
your boobs in my face. Let me, rub your hands across my face or your ears.
Hands or ears.
But yeah, so they have their little conversation. We get the Celis flowers, and then the part that he brings out, as far as the best case he's making for granted power is the fact that, if you want to have a kid, you need, a man cannot create a kid on his own. So he needs a woman. So that's something that would be impossible for a man through inherent power, is to have a kid without a woman. So that's kind of what seals the deal for Kvothe on it. I still think, in some situations, yes, granted power is better, but not in all.
Yeah. Again, I think it's. I guess there's an argument there, but yeah, it's. It can be taken. He even goes as far as, here is a great secret. Even my title, my riches, my control over people in the land, it is only granted power. It belongs to me no more than does the strength of your arm. But I know the difference, and that is why I'm always in control. But again, it's,
that's kind of a Bredon type quality, where he understands the pitfalls. He understands why he's in the position he is. He understands how he could lose it. And he's playing a game. And he's always, you see that, when Kvothe comes storming up to him one time, and he greets Kvothe like, "Hey, Kvothe, how's it going?" And ushers him into the room. And then when he ushers him to the room, Kvothe sees oh, this dude's storming mad. He's ready to murder me right now. But he was playing it off, playing the game in the hallway when other people could see. But once he got behind closed door, he let that mask drop, that he was furious that Kvothe was coming up to him unannounced. So, you see, he plays the game, and with good reason, because if you're in that position, you have to.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's the biggest. That's the biggest thing about this granted power, is that, you have to, right?
You're relying on other people. Yeah.
It's part of the game.
So,
God, that would suck.
Yeah.
the more I consider it, it's dude, I hate having I don't know how many
couldn't
times
do it.
I've had. Well, I was gonna say, I don't know how many times I've had plans to do something that I was looking forward to when I set up those plans. Closer I got to it, I'm like, I don't want to fucking do this shit. Even though I'm excited for whatever the event is, once it's coming close, it's what, I got to do things now? I don't do things. I don't have to move foot to foot, leg. I got to put clothes on. Oh, it's any type of I don't know why I'm running short of words here, but
I just think of when you're in social situations, I'm really bad about faking interest or small talk, that kind of stuff. It doesn't interest me, and I'm very comfortable letting silence linger and not saying anything, and I'm very comfortable making other people uncomfortable if I don't feel like talking, and I don't feel like doing chit chat and playing nice and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't interest me, and so I don't do it.
I have many times been confronted by people after some event, and they're like, "Dude, you didn't say bye." I'm like, "What,
dude?" You know how many times I left you at a bar and just went home and didn't say anything? I did that constantly in Los Angeles.
Yeah,
I would just especially if we were out with people we worked with. I was 100% at some point I was just gonna leave, and I wasn't gonna say bye to anybody. It was I don't want to do it. I hate these conversations. It's gonna I want to go out the door. I don't want to get stuck making this a 30-minute ordeal. I'm just going to walk out the door. And if people are mad about it, that's I'm comfortable with them being upset about that. I'm comfortable with it. So yeah, I'm not good at playing games like that.
Yeah, I remember specifically. When I first moved to LA, I didn't have anything to do, anywhere to go. I didn't have a job, so I'd literally just go to your work, get hammered all day, and then while you're working and then get hammered with you after you finished working. And then you just like went to Burger King and it was the afternoon. It wasn't even late. It was like 2 p.m, maybe.
Yeah, we told this one,
like 3
yeah.
or 4.
And then, yeah.
Oh, we did?
And then, yeah.
Yeah, I woke up with hamburger wrappers in front of you.
That wasn't even like a conscious decision. That was just a, oh man, we went overboard with the drinking that day.
Well, yeah, I was a little bit strange because I'm like, all right, so, I mean, there's no big deal because I just take the subway home, so there's no big deal. Yeah. I just took the train, but yeah, I was like, I guess.
Yeah, it's not like I was driving, taking the car and driving home. We were always drinking. It was
well, no, but that was one of the situations where it's like, so I guess I'm just going to have to become friends with all these people that work here because that's who I'm hanging out with. Yeah. So it's like whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, sometimes it'd be if you're looking for companionship, sometimes I'm not the best one to, bring around because I might leave you and you'll have to adjust to an uncomfortable situation.
No, but it's funny because when you mention that, I've described myself in that way many times where like I'll stand in an elevator for almost like an eternity and I won't speak. Yeah. Like I'll be the last person to say something. I don't give a shit. Like there's so many times that I've been in a huddle of people and I can tell it really bothers someone that there's a lull and something needs to be said. So they'll just interject something. But I'm like, I don't fucking care. I'll sit in this. I'll stew in this all day. This is like where I live right here.
Yeah.
This awkward feeling you have.
100% comfortable right now.
This awkward feeling you have is delicious to me.
Yeah. It's kind of funny that I can see you're getting uncomfortable and I'm enjoying it. And so let's just roll with this. Let's see how fucking weird we can get with it.
It's a little strange. I've always thought it was strange that I ain't like had some sort of enjoyment for it, but yeah. I guess that's how we get to this point where we're doing a podcast about a book. But yeah,
at the end of the day, it is what it is.
As you always say. I hate you so much. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I didn't have a tremendous amount more that I can say about their discussion back and forth, other than I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself, but when he brings up that he can't have a child by himself, obviously, and that he needs... Oh, I like this. Lady Hazua, just chick walks by, right? They're walking...
Yeah.
The Maer, Kavoth, walking around the garden, this badass garden. And Lady Hosea comes up, and she caught my eye and held it briefly, her red mouth curving into a knowing smile. Then she was past us. I found myself sweating a bit. Terrible woman, the Maer says. Terrible woman. New men every span of days. Her father was wounded in a duel, blah, blah, blah. But the fact that Kavoth sees her, she does that smile, and he's sweating. I like this chick. I want to meet her.
Yeah.
She sounds really interesting.
Yeah, Kavoth sounds like the people in the elevator with you. But
oh my goodness! Oh, he's fanning himself. Oh, yeah. What was her deal? Oh my goodness!
Get a little bit of the court, which a lot of the court seems to be kind of fucking a little bit of jackasses that just like to gossip. But yeah, and so after that though, the Maer talks about like he's not feeling great, and so he's got to go take his medicine. And Kavoth says, or he says he somehow discovered that I poured yesterday's dose in the chamber pot, talking about how Caudicus would be upset with him. And Kavoth responds, "Your grace should be mindful of your health." Alvaron scowled. "You overstep yourself," he snapped. So that's one of those situations where you get that there is a thin line with this guy that like you can be having a normal conversation, having some fun debate, but then like he's got some strict lines like, don't fucking tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And it's ready to he gets real hot tempered real quick. He's got a much shorter temper than Kavoth even.
Yeah. Well, and again, that makes sense for the character because you have to imagine his entire existence, he gets what he wants.
Yeah.
Nobody tells him what to do. He's, I picture who's that kid at the Erie? The kid, the Robin that, make the bad man fly, like, he's fucking Prince.
Yeah.
Prince Robin or something like that, where it's just like
Robert.
Like someone needs to fucking check this motherfucker. But something I did also find interesting is that he talks about, I thought I got some feeling where Caudicus travels a lot, right? And it seemed like when he was last traveling, the Maer felt better, comes back, now he's taking his... It seems like maybe he should have put 2 and 2 together here. You know what I'm saying? Like, Caudicus leaves. I mean, when Caudicus leaves, is he taking potions?
Well, he's saying that he got the Maer up on his feet and feeling good and shit, and then he left. And so, I mean, and he left when he was already feeling good, and then he comes back.
So maybe it seemed like the potions were doing good for him.
Yeah,
yeah.
And then I'm sure he's not like coming back, and then the first day dosing him again, so he's feeling sick. As soon as Caudicus gets back, he probably gives himself enough time where he's not going to be under suspicion, which wouldn't be that difficult if you're poisoning someone that slowly.
If you're smart about it,
yeah, especially with an arcanist who knows what he's doing.
I was gonna say, it seems like he's earned enough through the way he's written. Caudicus has earned enough that we should give him benefit of the doubt that he's doing it in a wise enough way that the Mayor's not catching on, because the Mayor's not an idiot.
And I mean, Caudicus was smart enough to, like, all of a sudden he sniffs out that the Mayor's not taking his medicine, so he changes it up. He's not an idiot. He's pretty quick with it. He tests both pretty quickly. He's a smart dude. He knew what he was doing. He got out of there before they were able to, slam the cage on him. He was able to get the fuck out. So he's not an idiot. And he's been doing this for a while, obviously. So he was not suspected, and you got to assume that he's doing, the smart thing. But so he's, back and forth with it, but before they leave, he's like, if I could aid you in any way, Your Grace, I would. Alvaron turned his head to look me in the eye. After a moment, he nodded to himself. I do believe you would, he said. How extraordinary. Which, to me, it's like, God damn, what a sad life you live, where somebody's saying, if they could help you, they would. And you're like, oh, someone's being genuine to me.
Yeah, that's pretty... Again, that's what we were talking about earlier. It would really suck to be in a position like this. But it also tells us that Kavoth was convincing, and he did well here.
Yeah, and, it ends with Kavoth sitting there thinking about, obviously, the Mayor's tempting him. He said, I almost suspected, testing him. He said, I almost suspected he might have sent Threp for a companion, someone clever but removed from the politics of court so he could have an honest conversation once in a while. At first, I dismissed such an idea as unlikely, but the days continued to pass, and still the Mayor avoided any mention of what use he had planned to put me to. Yeah, I did give a hint when he talked about, if you need to have a kid, you need a woman. And obviously he's up there in age and he's not got an heir, so there's some clues to it. But if he had his loot and everything, he said he would have been fine, but without that shit was obviously weighing on him, and that's a that's a ticking clock. Every day that goes by gets closer and closer to where he's got to do something desperate and ruin. He's still got that fallback where he can sell the clothes and everything and get it and just jump, skip out of town, but that defeats the purpose of going there. So he's, he would obviously wait, and that would be the last ditch effort.
Part of the other great thing that Rothfuss does by not having him have his loot is that once he gets it and he's in this position with all this time on his hands, it's like the floodgates open. Like he's writing like crazy. He's playing music, writing songs, like, because he didn't give himself this time. He gave himself time to practice, right? And that's how he met Ari. But he wasn't like writing music. I mean, am I wrong? He hasn't written music since he was in the woods, right? And those aren't songs.
Yeah, who knows what he's doing? And
but I mean, not that we found.
They're not talking about him writing music.
Yeah. But
I mean, he wrote Jackass, which is a legendary song.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah, that's true. But yeah, it's a really interesting way for Rothfuss to accomplish a lot by taking that loot away, and it ends up becoming pivotal. But yeah, that ticking time clock. I mean, at the end of this group of chapters, we're like with 1 to 2 days left. So it's really getting close, and that tension keeps building and building and building.
Yeah, and so he mentions too that the rumors about him were starting to spread, and a lot of people were coming up trying to get a feel for him, trying to figure out who he is. He's like, others made a show of wanting to gossip. I even suspected there were a few attempts at seduction, but at that point in my life, I knew so little of women that I was immune to those games. One gentleman even tried to borrow money from me, and I was hard-pressed not to laugh in his face. It's a good one. And then finishes it with, however, since I was under the mayor's instructions to be tight-lipped about myself, all the conversations were brief and unsatisfying. All but one, I should say. The exception proves the rule. I think that's significant with Rothfuss's writing style, that in a similar fashion, obviously without the big to-do, it's a similar way as he introduces Denna, or I can't remember if he does Debbie quite like that, but there's a little bit of a preamble, but not specific about Debbie. This feels a lot like how he introduced Denna, where he's like, okay, now I'm going to tell you about someone who's very important. This is an important character. Remember this character. He doesn't do that with Stape. He doesn't do that with the Maer. He does that.
He does kind of do it with Abinthy, if I remember right. Like how he builds it in.
Yeah, he meets Abinthy from a distance, but like you could tell, like when a character is going to be more important than like when Savoy's mentioned, you don't get the feel like this.
Yeah. No, he's like he's getting you to sit up and like pay attention. Yeah. This is coming. Yeah.
And he does this specifically at the end of a chapter and makes a point of, this is the exception that proves the rule.
Yeah,
this guy is important. He's being explicit about that.
Well, and the first 3 words of the next chapter are, "I met Bredon."
Yeah,
So it's in a way, now that you're pointing it out, it almost becomes heavy-handed, which is very suggestive. He is saying, like this is. So this goes back to your point that he can't just be a distraction.
No.
Right.
There's too many. There's too many clues, too many subtle hints, too much mystery. They lay it on too thick as far as when he's meeting him. Like he makes a specific point about, this guy's different. This was special. This is this is the exception. He's exceptional. There's too much on him for like, he's not going to play he doesn't have to play like a massive role where he's all strewn throughout the 3rd book, but he has to play some significant role. Yeah, he has to be Taylor. Yeah,
Scarpy.
Yeah, well, they're all the same.
Who else can I name?
They're all the same. Scarpy, Taylu, everybody's Taylu.
How about, so Bredon is fuck. Now I forgot his fucking
Jackie
name.
Chan.
No, he's God damn it. Cinder. He is Cinder. So I
like Jackie Chan better. I think that would be a more interesting twist. So no one would expect it.
Cinder and Bredon are the same, and which again, we've already discussed this out, but it's definitely a lot more interesting for Bredon to be the patron, be Master Ash, versus Cinder, in the sense of the cunning way of being, what's the word there? I mean, he torments.
It's a more you can do more with it in the dynamic of the betrayal, and the revelation would be more than Cinder. Cinder, obviously, it's not like Cinder would be like this massive lit down, like, oh, there's nothing. Because he would see the guy that murdered his parents, and did awful things to his mother, he'd see that guy with Denna, so it would shock him, and he might feel betrayal if he thinks like Denna is, you know, with him in a partner type ship thing, or he would just be like want to murder him more, but he already wants to murder Cinder, so it's just going to be a heightened.
Doesn't add a it's he sees red basically. If it's Bredon, then he has to step back.
It's a gut punch. And read. Yeah, well, it's a complete gut punch where, like, you know, in a way that just you can't do with Cinder. It would have to be, if Cinder, the gut punch would be that, you know, Denna knows it's Cinder and she's purposely screwing Kvothe over and she's working with Cinder and she knows it's him. That would be a gut punch, but that's Denna.
That's upsetting.
That's not Master Ash being the gut punch. Where, yeah, I don't think that would be the case. I'm just saying, like, the only way you could make, like, he finds out it's Cinder and it's a gut punch is if Denna is, you know, that's the only way I can see it. Maybe you could come up with something else, but off the top of my head, it's really the only thing I could think of. But with Bredon, it's like seeing that, you know, somebody who was like played like a fatherly role for you or a grandfatherly role, a mentor, someone who's like coaching you along, and then you find out like he's fucking diddling your girlfriend on the side, like, be like, what the I respected you, man. I thought you were like my friend. I thought you cared about me.
It's not just that.
You were like,
he torments her.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like he's already, whoever the guy is.
And when I say like diddling, you know, he's obviously, I don't think he's like sleeping with Denna. I'm just saying, you know, in our world example, it'd be something like that. It'd be such a big betrayal. Like if your mentor was doing you dirty like that on the low. Yeah. And so that's where the gut punch would come in, is like just the relationship they build up. And then the finding out that this guy's doing dirty shit and, you know, possibly purposely trying to spike your wheel and fuck with you and manipulate you, and like finding out like a mentor type figure is doing that to you, that would be tough to deal with.
Well, and the interesting thing, whatever the reveal is, he already knows he hates this like he hates this guy more than most people he's been confronted with, whoever it is. He despises Master Ash for whoever he is. Once it's revealed, there's a lot more that gets unpacked if it's Bredon versus a Cinder.
Yeah, well, then you're conflicted. Like, I mean, you hate the idea of Master Ash and who he is as a secretive person, but what happens when you find out it's someone you respect and like?
Yeah,
you know, then it's like, fuck, do I hate this guy? Like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah, then
like,
you gotta like do
the confusion.
Yeah, and then you gotta like, all right, so what reasoning would he have? And then even consider things from his perspective. Yeah, it's much more interesting that way. That's for sure.
But that's all I got for 56.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so chapter 57 is titled A Handful of Iron. And in this chapter, he meets Bredon. And Bredon comes in, teaches him about the rings, and teaches him how to play tack. And they have a nice little conversation here.
Yeah, they talk about the weather.
Long conversation about the weather, which is always fun, always interesting.
I do like...
it's a hot one today.
Was it hot? Is it hot? I wish I could remember the neighbors.
He loves telling me it's a hot one. You know, I know it's a hot one. I just came out of the hot one.
I wish I could remember the character's name. The neighbor. Wally? Is that
it?
Well, is it hot,
I think it's Wally.
Is it hot? At the end?
Yeah.
I do love Kvothe's approach to these people, the courtiers that he called them, trying to pry at him. Where it's like, so where are you from? Oh, you know how it is. One travels so. And your parents? Yeah, actually, I had them, 2, in fact. What brings you to Severin? A coach and 4 for the most part, though I walked a little bit. Like, all of his answers mean shit, you know? And what are you doing here? Enjoying good conversations, of course, meeting interesting people. Like you, for example. Like, what the fuck, man? Yeah. Like, all of his, which, I mean, again, why I like it is this is what he's supposed to be doing, but also it's a fun thing to do to people. It's frustrating as shit to have done to you. It's so frustrating to have someone give you just like bullshit roundabout answers that, especially for a salesperson, that's terrible.
Yeah, and I do that to people. I make it pretty clear that I don't want to talk when they ask me bullshit questions. I give them 1-word answers, and then like I will respond directly to the question. Like, especially if you give me a yes or no, I will answer yes or no, and then I will ask no follow-up question, and I won't elaborate, and then I will hope the conversation dies and ends. And Kavoth, does it in a little more of a prickish way, where it's obvious that he's being flippant and not just I don't want to talk. He's talking to them and playing a game, and he's just fucking with them.
Yeah, he's talking, but he's clearly saying, "Yeah, I'm not going to tell you, though. Yeah, I'm going to say a bunch of things that are polite responses, but I'm not going to give you any answers to what you really want to know."
Yeah, and the Maer is, he talks about the Maer is obviously testing him, calling him late at night, and seeing if he'll get impatient or he'll complain about getting woken up in the middle of the night to go have some bullshit conversation, and so. He knows he's being tested, and so he's playing the game with him as well, and he's making sure that he's going to get what he needs out of the situation.
And I mean, and again, Kavoth does it well. He does what the Maer wants. He answers questions the right way, it seems, throughout this, and then. We get a little reminder of like where he is, that he's still kind of pacing his rooms and trying not to think about how many days he has left before he loses his loot. And then the knock on the door and the interesting older gentleman.
Yeah, I opened the door to reveal an older man, a gentleman down to his bones. His clothes gave him away, certainly, but more importantly was the fact that he wore his wealth with the comfortable indifference of someone born into it. New-made nobles, pretenders, and rich merchants simply don't carry themselves the same way. However, unlike Stapes, and then he talks about like he had, because of the Maer giving him his nice wardrobe, like he looked as fine as all the other nobles, and he talks about Stapes, he's got, in a position of power, and he's got nice stuff, but he doesn't wear it the same way. So he's like, however, unlike Stapes, I wore the clothes with the casual ease of nobility. True, the brocade itch, true, the buttons, buckles, and endless layers made every outfit stiff and awkward as a suit of mercenaries' leathers, but I lounged in it as easily as if it were a second skin. It was a costume, you see, and I played my part as only a trooper can.
I like the idea that he looks like Stapes. Like, he thinks he looks great. But he looks like a baker wearing his holiday best, is the way he describes Stapes.
Bredon in his own head, he's like, man, this dude looks ridiculous.
Yeah, and Kavoth's head, he's over-exaggerated lounging, like where he's got both legs up and arms up. Like, he's just like, dude, what are you doing? Like
the runner boys are like going when Kavoth's calling him, and like they're going back to Bredon. He's wearing the cloak still. He wears it every day.
No, I ridiculous.
Like someone told him that cloaks are in fashion here. Like it's hilarious. He totally bought it.
Yeah, I love the idea. Yeah, his dashingness. So where he's like literally pulling it over his face and shit. Every time he turns, he throws the cloak around. And but I also like the idea that he's lounging like the wealthy do. But I like picturing that he thinks that means like every limb has to be up in the air. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like like his whole body is like liquid. I like picturing him like that. So when Bredon comes in, he's just like, what the fuck is this guy's deal?
He's like this doing like over-exaggerating across the arms of a chair. Exactly. Like thinks he's lounging, but he's just like extremely tensed up.
Oh, I like that. Like he's so he thinks what lounging looks like is he literally has his arms in front of him and his feet up in the air while he's on his chest, like a little girl talking on the like a high school girl talking. Is how he talks to Bredon. So what brings you here? Like, what the fuck are you doing?
So kicking his legs back behind him the whole time.
This is how the wealthy lounge, right?
He like pulls the cloak over his face and is doing like a little peekaboo thing. Peekaboo. I see you, Bredon. I'm lounging. Look how fucking cool I look. Bredon's like, what the fuck is wrong with this kid?
Well, and that's why he's so careful to talk the way that he does.
Yeah.
Where he's like, someone that, which is really interesting. The way that Bredon does it is really wise because he gives Kvothe an out at every turn. Where he's like, you don't have to tell me, where you're from and all that stuff. But, it's what's funny is he kind of plays him because he does find out more information than anybody else.
Yeah, and he's definitely playing a game with him. And the fact that, again, that he's an older gentleman, he looks like a noble down to his bones, that, those are clues towards him being Master Ash, because that is how Master Ash is described. So those stand out. And then the fact that he comes to him, he doesn't send a runner, he doesn't play those games, catches him off his guard, has him a little bit off kilter, and he's going in, he's asking him, he's picking up information from him just on the rings that he's got and all these kind of things. He starts picking out what's going on with this kid. He's able to see, okay, so you got all the gossip mongers coming to you trying to pry information, but there's no information coming out about you. No one's getting anything. So that tells me that, you're tight-lipped. And so obviously if you're tight-lipped, then there's got to be a reason behind that. There's got to be something you're hiding. And so he starts piecing together like a little bit of a puzzle on Kvothe and starts putting the puzzle together right in front of him.
Well, it's really smart as well because he considers it from Kavothe's perspective in the sense also that he's basically there being held captive to a degree. So the idea of bringing the tack game and then being able to utilize that, what their competitiveness back and forth, and using that as a backdrop to conversation, it's very effective, and it's nothing like anybody else has been doing. They're all just coming to him, even going as far as asking for favors and trying to prod him for information.
Yeah, and you get the first little introduction on the rings. So there's the gold, the silver, and the iron rings. And the gold means like if someone sends you a gold ring, it's because they see you as their superior. You're their superior, whereas silver is more like you're kind of on the same footing. Iron is you're beneath them. They see you as beneath them, lower. So obviously, like the Maer, everybody who gets a ring from the Maer is going to be getting a silver or a iron ring.
Yeah. I love the whole rings, the ranking part of it, the carefulness of giving it to somebody, wearing it, all that type of stuff. The way that all plays out is a really interesting part of their world. And yeah, that whole, I mean, they talk about it a little bit later where it's like, well, which one would I give you? He's like, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Isn't that, what would they say? Something like that, where it's really cool.
But yeah, so he comes in and he's like, tells him, you may call me Bredon, which is an interesting way to introduce yourself. You may call me Bredon. Is that your actual name though? Like, I mean, What the fuck does that mean? It's kind of similar. Like it's funny, like, because Chronicler, when he introduced himself, he's like, you can call me, the Chronicler or whatever. And Kavothe's like, I didn't ask what I can call you. I asked what your name is. So I'm curious if this is one of those moments where it's going to be a callback when you find out his name is not actually Bredon, and Kvothe is going to, that's going to stick with him to the point where that's why Kvothe was immediately like, it's not what I fucking asked, man. What's your fucking name? What's your real name?
Well, and we get that all the time, that there is a power in names, right?
Yeah.
That's when we hear about Kavoth's name to begin with, and when it's introduced, is that there is power in names, and perhaps Bredon's an arcanist, and he knows he has this name, which is maybe not his name.
Yeah, but that definitely sticks out. It makes me think that his name might not actually be Bredon, and that it's a false name, which, if he's given him a false name, it's similar to Denna's situation where Denna's Master Ash has given her a name, but she's like, I'm not sure if it's his actual name. And so that's another one that's kind of a call towards that, because he doesn't just say, hey, my name's Bredon. He says, you can call me Bredon. That's a weird way. I've never introduced myself and like, you can call me Dan. Like, well, what does that mean? Is that your name? Like, why? Yeah, okay, I can call you that, but like, is that your actual name, or what are we doing here?
Hey, that's what you should start doing.
Yeah.
Just put people on their heels,
You may call me Dan.
It's already uncomfortable
like,
being around
what?
you. They'd be like,
yeah.
Huh? Like, okay, what's your real name, though? Oh, my name's Dan.
Yeah.
All right, so what the fuck are we doing?
Why'd you say it like that?
It still goes back to the same feeling.
Yeah.
You're a fucking weirdo,
fucking
dude.
Jackass. Yeah, and so he's like, yeah, you'll forgive an old man for dramatic entrance, I hope. Of course, I said graciously. Please have a seat. I gestured towards the new table by the window. Such a plum, he chuckled, leaning his walking stick against the window. So the sunlight caught on the polished silver handle wrought in the shape of a snarling wolf's head. Now, the walking stick stands out again because Master Ash beats Denna with a walking stick. The silver handle, it's made of silver and the shape of a snarling wolf's head. That, it could be something that, that he's Fae or something like that, or he could be Cinder. I don't think Bredon is Cinder, but it could be that he's Fae. Maybe that's a reason that it's a silver handle, or it could just be nothing. It could just be a silver handle.
Why would the silver handle hint at him being Fae?
Because iron,
the
Fae can't handle iron. They got allergies.
Silver's fancy.
Yeah. So it could just be that, but it's a snarling wolf's head. It's kind of a somewhat sinister type of handle, or a signal that you're dangerous or something like that, which goes against like the facade that he's presenting towards Kavoth. You don't see him as a dangerous figure, and other than when he like snaps in one scene later on.
This is like every guy in our world that has a skull thing, whether it's a handle on a walking stick or an earring or a tattoo. Those guys are all dangerous, every single one of them.
Yeah, basically, like the silver snarling wolf's head is the teardrop tattoo. That's what Bredon is saying there.
Well, I think what's clear is he says such a plum. So this is clearly Ambrose.
Such a plum, Bob.
Exactly. So this is Ambrose winking at him.
My name's not Bob. I don't understand. Wink, wink.
So Ambrose is Bredon. Kavoth just doesn't pick up on it. It's a really good wig.
Yeah.
He does an accent. Yeah. No.
He acts just like Ambrose. Basically the same.
Yeah.
That's why I like him so much. He's so cool. Just cool like Ambrose.
We get his important descriptions. Yeah.
Yeah. Another big one as far as Master Ash is his colors weren't colors at all, merely ash gray and a dark charcoal. His hair and beard were pure white, all cut to the same length, making a frame for his face. As he sat there peering at me with his lively brown eyes, he reminded me of an owl. So those, again, I mean, that's significant features that describe the same way as Master Ash. Like ash, the charcoal, it's the same thing as the religious, the Talons with the ash colored, clothing. Mm-hmm. So there's got to be some kind of significance towards that and his colors, and that it's mentioned and it stands out. Plus, he's got white hair like her patron. So these are all things that stand out. And it's right as you're getting introduced to him, he's laying it on real thick with, how much stuff ties towards her patron.
Yeah.
If you're not paying attention, it's easy to miss. But if you're thinking about who her patron is and some of the signs, the descriptions that we've been given, they all fit with Bredon here. And it's right off the bat. And to the point where he's talking about dancing, he's got the walking stick, it's the hair, the colors, the nobility, like everything fits. So
well, and it's also the subtlety of he's partially helping Kvothe understand the world that he's in, but at the same time he's gathering a lot of information. Like the whole thing with the rings, would you mind terribly if I looked them over, and then talking about them and finding out little bits about Kvothe by giving him information. There's a lot of tit for tat going on, but there's a game to all of it from Bredon's perspective, so that's an interesting dichotomy to throw in there, or a complication to how their relationship starts and pretty much remains.
Yeah, he's a real interesting dude. I love this conversation because, he goes straight into, I got that, kind of like to solve puzzles. Obviously, that's one of the great things about this book is trying to solve puzzles, and Bredon is like that as well. So I think, people who like this book for the puzzle aspect of it, trying to figure out what's going to happen, Bredon's an intriguing character because he's playing that dynamic, and he's trying to teach that to Kvothe as well. Because he comes in, he's like, you've had all the best gossip mongers, the Pravek and Timolovi and Pravik twice, and none of them got a shred of anything out of you, nothing half as solid as a whisper. That tells me you're keeping your tongue tightly between your teeth and you are good at it. Rest assured, I'm not here in some vain attempt to pry at your secrets.
Yeah. Well, so you skipped over this, and it does come up again, but I want to mention it because it seems like there might be something happening. He smiled at me, an honest smile. I found myself returning before I realized what I was doing. Which, okay. But then it happens again, where on like page and a half later, where he smiles without meaning to. I found myself smiling back with it. So this is a little bit later. I found myself smiling back without meaning to, as I had before. Is there like a magic happening here? Is there something happening that Bredon's doing which is conjuring this,
Yeah, it could be. I don't know. There's not any clue to why.
So I was thinking, he said his hair and beard are cut the same length, but he didn't mention he's got the babe magnets in his sideburns. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's like an illish.
He's probably got the Umbro like symbol on the side of his head.
Very, very mid to late 80s style thing that just seemed to make its way into the book. But maybe that's like an Illishnot Denna type thing that he ends up teaching her.
Yeah, that's what the Umbro sign in the side of the head, and if he traces it with his finger, that makes Kvothe smile.
So he's got the teardrop tattoo, slash cane, silver cane with the thing, and then the Umbro thing is also a tilt towards. Yeah, I don't know. I lost my train of thought.
No, that was good. That was really good stuff there. That was good to listen to. I'm sure everybody loved
that. Stick with me. Stick with me for the ride. No, I lost what I was fucking talking about.
But yeah, so he's like, as a brief aside, he mentioned casually, I'll mention the rings are traditionally left in the sitting room near the door. They are displayed as a mark of status. And Kvothe's like, there's no real status in a handful of iron. Count Threp had explained the basics of the rings to me before I left Emory, but he wasn't from Ventus and obviously hadn't known the fine points. There's some truth to that, Bredon said, but not the truth entire. Gold rings imply those below you are working to curry your favor. Silver indicates a healthy working relationship with your peers. He laid the rings in a row on the table. However, iron means you have the attention of your betters. It indicates you are desirable. I nodded slowly. Of course, I said. And any ring the Maer sends would be an iron one. Exactly, Bredon nodded. To have a ring from the Maer is a mark of great favor. He pushed the ring toward me across the top of the smooth marble table. But there's no such ring here, and that in itself is meaningful. So you see, like, the mind is working. He's you know, like, nobody else got any information out of Kvothe, and they left, and they didn't know anything what to say. And Bredon is just looking at who's talked to him, what's missing, what's there, what's seen, what's not seen, and he's piecing together information without Kvothe having to tell him anything. He's finding the clues that everybody else is missing that are going in there specifically looking for clues. He's playing he's on a different level than all the people he's met.
Yeah, clearly. This dude's fucking Columbo, man.
Yeah, and he talks about, you know, he was fond of the game when he was young. I was even something of a power as these things go, but at present I have no machinations to advance. That takes the spice from such maneuverings. He looked at me again, meeting my eyes directly. I have simpler taste now. I travel. I enjoy wines and conversation with interesting people. I even been learning how to dance. The travel,
it's a big one.
The wines, the conversation with interesting people, learning how to dance. Again, all tie into Master Ash. Those are all things you could point at Master Ash in regards to. You can easily put those two together.
Yeah, I mean, it ties in quite well. There's no other reason to mention it. Like, why else would we need this character to be learning how to dance?
Yeah,
picture him doing the Harlem Shuffle anytime soon. I mean,
yeah, it's in your face when you're looking for who Master Ash is. Rothfuss clearly was writing Bredon to match up with him. Whether he is him or not, Rothfuss was writing him to match up. And the only way that's not bullshit is if he's got some other, there's another reason why he made them match up so well. And there's something else going on with Bredon that we're not privy to yet. But you can't just like do that and then there's nothing there. It was just a trick. Then that's stupid. That's just manipulating the reader because because you felt like you gave it away with Cinder and you wanted to walk that back.
Or you wanted to have fun with it in a really cheap way.
Yeah. It's not clever.
Or we get that poetry slam jam with Ambrose and Kvothe, and then in the back you got Bredon just doing a jig, dancing it up.
Yeah, that's how it's gonna tie in the dancing. That's where the dancing is important. He's gonna be popping and locking, and while they're doing their slam jam poetry sessions, he surprisingly made a really good robot.
Very nimble on his feet, yeah.
But and so it says, more than anything, however, I enjoy playing TAC. However, I know few people with time or wit enough to play the game properly. One might assume that someone well-skilled in the subtle art of conversation could use long stretches of idle chatter to glean information from an unsuspecting victim, Kvothe said. Bredon smiled. By the names of these rings, I can tell you've seen nothing but the most gaudy and grasping of us. You're understandingly skittish regarding your secrets, whatever they may be. Consider this instead. Those who approach you are like magpies. They caw and flap around you, hoping to snatch something bright to carry home with them. He rolled his eyes disdainfully. What gain is there in that? Some small notoriety, I suppose? Some brief elevation among one's gaudy, gossipy peers? Bredon ran a hand over his white beard. I am no magpie. I need nothing shiny, nor do I care what gossip mongers think. I play a longer, more subtle game. You are a man of some wit. I know this as the Maer does not waste his time with fools. I know you either stand in the Mayor's good grace, or you have a chance to gain that grace. So here's my plan. Would you like to hear my plan? And he says, my plan is to insinuate myself into your favor now. I will make myself useful and entertaining. I will provide conversation and a way to pass time. Then, when your star grows ascendant in the Mayor's sky, I may find myself in possession of an unexpectedly useful friend. And should your star fail to rise, I am still richer by several games of TAC. So he right off the bat is like, I am playing a longer game. I have bigger goals than just getting tidbits of information to gossip about. You know,
Yeah, it also
he's not doing what they're doing.
but it's an attempt to lull Kavoth into a feeling of, security in a way. Like, I'm not just getting information from you to then spread out into the world, but then also he's offering him value as well in trade, basically. So, yeah, I mean, and this speaks to what I mentioned earlier. He's John Wayne. He's being very upfront and honest about what he's doing, what his intentions are, why he's there, which that makes at least me as a reader respect him more.
Yeah, and it reminds me of when he says to Kavoth, to lay a trap and for your opponent to know that you laid a trap for them, and you still catch them in it. That's great. And then also to know someone laid a trap for you and to proceed in there and throw their trap on its on its ear and completely upend the game on them. That's even
That's
better.
beautiful
And
game.
so that's. He's telling him what his game plan is and what he could utilize this relationship as, and so he's letting him know, I am playing a bigger game. I do have bigger ideas on what I can get out of this. Here's some of the things, but he's letting Kavoth know these things up front, and he's still going to do it. I mean, he's still he's clearly playing a game with Kavoth. He's not just trying to play some tack.
It's I mean, we don't know necessarily if he's going to be the villain per se, but it's a great way to build one.
Yeah.
One that's that close and telling you up front what he's going to do. I mean, some of the best villains in the history of stories that I've read or watched are the guys that in the beginning are like, don't trust anyone, especially don't trust me. Yet they get so close that they end up trusting them, and then they fuck them over. It's like, dude, I told you. Told you not to trust me, man.
Told you so.
It's a great turnaround, man. It's a stab in the back, but it's it's a very interesting complication to throw in there because he told you in the beginning.
Yep, it's like poisoning someone's food and being like, "Hey, don't eat that," and when they eat it, I'm like, "Told you."
Yeah. But instead of don't eat that, it's like, yeah, you shouldn't eat that. That's not good.
That's not good for you. That's not going to be good for you.
Not good. You shouldn't eat that. You're not going to enjoy that. That's terrible for you. You're like, oh, I love it. See? Sick.
Yeah.
Look at you now. Look at you now dying. Fucking idiot. Told you.
Basically the same thing.
Yeah.
Clever writing. Same clever writing. But yeah, then so they talk about tack, and he's like, tack is the best sort of game. Simple in its rules, complex in its strategy. Similar to like chess. Is there obviously tack exists. They made a game off of this. I haven't played it, but they have made a game tack, and so I'm curious about it. But I avoid it because I know my personality. Like I know how lost I can get if I start playing chess, and so like I don't want to go down that path and become like crazy focused on getting real good at tack. If it's a complex game like in the vein of chess. But that's how I picture it written.
When I've seen it, when I've seen the board, I've just seen images. It looks a lot smaller than I expected.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but that's...
because I picture like a chessboard, and it kind of looks similar. And
it looks like far less spaces than a chessboard. I mean,
a little bit.
I've just seen images, but it just looked like a lot less as far as I could tell, but maybe I don't know.
But the way like I see the similarities in like, cause I've played a lot of people who will be like, oh, I'm pretty good at chess. And then I play them and I'm like, you know how to play the game and move the pieces, but you don't know how to play chess.
Well,
cause I guess what like you just like on a completely different level. And then like I've played people who are on a whole nother level than me where it's like, oh shit, there's no way. I'd have to practice so long and so hard, and I probably still am not going to catch up to this person.
I guess to what I was saying is, I guess I sort of saw it as similar as Go, and Go is a lot bigger board, right? Than what I saw of the tack boards. that were made. But I like the idea. It's an interesting thing to throw in here. It seems different in chess or to chess in the sense that you don't have all these different, or at least we don't hear about all these different pieces that do these different things. It's literally just sounds like spaces, and then, they don't get into it. It's more about the competitive nature of them playing the game itself. It's more they talk about strategy without going into the intricacies of it.
It's not quite, it's not like whatever checkers, but yeah, there is complexity. Even checkers, man. Like, I mean, people think checkers is a simple game, but like if you actually play by the rules, checkers is a complex game. Like, you play someone who's real good at checkers, they're going to destroy you. They're going to annihilate you. And like, you like go play checkers online and see how bad you are at it when you have to play someone who's good at it.
Only play checkers at Cracker Barrel.
Yeah. So you're probably really good then.
Oh, I'm super good. So good. I haven't been in a Cracker Barrel probably 15 years. So
I like the game. Practice. I like the Cracker Barrel game. I like the one with the toothpicks that you gotta jump over until you only got one left.
It's a triangle with golf tees.
Yeah, golf tees.
That's what it is. Yeah. Yeah, I like that too.
But yeah, and so they play their tack, and Kavoth with his at the end of after the fifth game, he leaned back with a satisfied sigh. That was approaching a good game. You got clever in the corner. Not clever enough. Clever nonetheless. What you attempted is called a Brooker's Fall, just so you know. And what's the name for the way you got away from it? I call it Bredon's defense, he said, smiling rakishly. But that's what I call any maneuver when I get out of a tight corner by being uncommonly clever. It kind of reminds me of Ari, the way she talks about herself.
Yeah.
I'm uncommonly clever. I could see her saying that. But, then when he goes to leave, he's like, I won't insult you by asking if you're familiar with the local customs. However, I thought I might give a few general pieces of advice on the off chance that they might be helpful. It would be best to listen, of course. If you refuse, you reveal your knowledge of these things, of course. And then he goes, the presentation of the rings implies a great deal. If they are jumbled in a bowl, for example, it implies disinterest in the social aspects of the court. Laid out in careful display, they show you are proud of your connections. Either way, a new arrival is usually left alone in the sitting room on some pretext. This gives them a chance to paw through your collection in order to satisfy their curiosity. You have, of course, always made a point of returning the rings to their owners. He was careful not to make it into a question. Of course, I said honestly. Threpp had known that much. It is the most polite thing to do. He looked up at me, his brown eyes peering owlishly from the halo of his white hair and beard. Have you worn any of them in public? And so wearing them indicates that you have a debt, and or that you're trying to curry favor with the person. So that is more, it's basically what this is showing, without having to like go through every single aspect of it. It's basically showing just like there is a subtlety to the ring, similar to, to like we're talking about with tack and chess and stuff. There is playing the game, knowing how to move the pieces, knowing what you're supposed to do. You give the ring back, put the rings out, but there's subtlety to it. How you display the rings means one thing. Where do you wear the rings? Like, are you giving people time to look at the rings? Like, there's all these little subtleties to it that mean more than what's on the surface. It's a much more complex game, and so it's an interesting cultural dynamic.
Yeah,
and it makes it it shows very much how much gamesmanship is prominent in this world, in this environment of the Mayor's Kingdom.
Yeah, I like especially when they bring in the whole aspect of wearing it. And how that can be presumptuous, or it can be like looked at as a slight, or it can even be looked at as someone else could take it as a miss. Like if you wore another noble's ring while visiting the mayor, he would take offense. It's interesting when you sort of put all that together, where it's literally just wearing a ring.
Yeah.
But just by doing that, I mean, it's kind of like gang colors, right? It's like Bloods and Crips.
Yep.
Right up in here. Yeah.
Yep,
Some Latin kings.
I know all about that life.
Yeah, yeah. So Kavoth coming in as a Latin king in the middle of all this, he's got to be careful. And but also Bredon's approach is tremendous. Like that, like what you said there. Like, I'll give you a few pieces of advice, and it makes sense to listen, because if you refuse, then you're revealing much more, and you don't want to do that. So it's pretty great, man. Where he's giving him outs at every turn.
Yeah, and it's interesting that he is explaining it to him. Even like what is the purpose of it? Like why? Like why is he giving him these tips? And could be that he's trying to ingratiate. He's trying to get Kavoth to lower his guard. It could be that he wants Kavoth to become better and more proficient at these things, because he thinks, it'll help him get closer with the Maer and build a relationship there, and then he can glom off of that. And so it just shows that Bredon is playing he obviously tells you he's playing a subtle game, but it's demonstrating that there is more to Bredon than just what he's doing. There has to be motivations for why he does what he does. It's not just empty gestures. There's no reason for him to tell him about the rings just to be nice. Maybe he could be just a nice guy, but it doesn't fit with everything else we see about Bredon. There's some ulterior motive. There's some reason he wants Kavoth to be able to easily mingle in this society.
That's an interesting point. Just from an exposition, or just from like a technique perspective, it's a great way to deliver the information. But it's also, you bring up a good point, because what's his motivating factor? Why does he need, or why is he looking to get Kavoth to move up in the world in this way? Or is it just that he's trying to endear Kavoth to him further, because he's kind of already getting that anyway? This didn't need to happen.
Yeah, you wouldn't question like his motives if he wasn't such a mysterious, calculating Machiavellian type of character. But once you see him in that light and you realize like there's something going on, then I mean, then at that point, then you're like, why does he do anything he does? It's not just simply to be nice.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, it gets to the point where you have to question everything, and that's again what's so fucking genius about the way Rothfuss did all this, is that he creates that aspect which is just contained within the character's actions and from what he's said thus far. Plus, we don't really know who he is, and it's all of that gets all loaded together. It's great.
He also, like, he talks about, like, well, they'll come back, they'll play some more tag, they'll learn it. He's like, you took to it quickly like a baron at a brothel, as they say. I expect you'll prove a decent challenge after a month or so. Wait and see, I said. I'll beat the next time we play. Bredon chuckled. I'd like to hear that. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet bag. I have brought you a small gift. Couldn't possibly, I said reflexively. You've already provided an afternoon's entertainment. Please, he said, pushing the bag across the table. I must insist. These are yours without obligation, let or lien. A freely given gift. I upended the bag and threw three rings chimed into my palm, gold, silver, and iron. Each of them had my name etched into the metal, Kavoth. I heard a rumor your luggage was lost, Bredon said, and thought these might prove useful. He smiled, especially if you desire another game of tack. And then they talk about what ring should I send you, and they do their little back and forth. You don't know anything about me, so you should assume that we're on the same footing. Send me a silver ring. And he's like, well, what will everybody else think of that? And he's like, what indeed?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier, where he's great, man. Just like the gift he gives him, how thoughtful it is, how it builds on what they were talking about. I did also like how Kavoth was like, yeah, no, watch next time. I'm even going to beat you. As a read through, you're like, it's fucking ridiculous. Like, cause once he gets a little bit cocky, he's fucking murders him, just wipes the floor with him. And it's ridiculous. He just toys with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty, it's pretty, and again, on a read through, it reads very different as compared, but which is, even
first time you go through it, you probably think, Kavoth is going to show this dude what's up.
We know.
Yeah,
especially with what we know about him. But again, this is also one of the great things that I like so much about book 2 is one, he just keeps leveling up. He doesn't really get checked too much. He does from his own personality flaws, and he makes his own mistakes, but he's winning in competition, unless something else gets involved, like physically he's, drained or what have you. But in this circumstance, he's playing a completely different game. And he's completely outmatched with here and with the Adem. And it's a really cool way to sort of reinvent the character and pressure him from a completely different angle.
Yeah, you show that he's got, near limitless potential in anything he wants to do, but he also, it's not just a natural ability. Like, he could get good at these things. He could get great at these things, but he would have to dedicate himself to it. And if he doesn't dedicate himself to it, then he's just going to it's going to be better than the average Joe that tries to pick it up, but he's not going to be as good as the really good people at the things.
So you're saying he's a Mary Sue?
Yes. Yep. He's 100%. I just changed my opinion on that, right? That whole thing. Yeah.
Because he's good at things. Mary Sue.
Yep.
Boom.
He's got potential, and that's exactly what you think about with Mary Sue, is that they have potential in things.
I do certainly like what you just read about with Bredon here. I do certainly like that answer where he's just like, Kvothe considers what they just talked about with the silver ring, and he's like thinking about it, and he's like, but what would people say? And he's like, what indeed? Oh, yeah, let's play this game. Let's get this game going, bro. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, and then it's the interesting part, too, because he goes, Bredon, he's plays some games attack back and forth, Bredon, and then one of the times the Maer calls on Kvothe, and he has to go dip out and see the Maer. But then later that night, Bredon sends him a ring like, hey, let's play tack again. And it stands out because it's like right after he just went and met with the Maer, and then Bredon is immediately contacting him like, hey, let's play some tack. They don't talk about, what they talked about and everything, but it is a hint that Bredon is trying to glean some information from him that it stands out that why put that in there? Why put that extra part in there? Like, I went, I was playing some games with him, then the Maer came and I had to dip out, and then when I went back to the room, Bredon called me again. Like, well, okay, why put that in there if you're not gonna they're not talking about what they talked about. Yeah. So why bring that up unless it's a hint that Bredon is, trying to dig for information.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's definitely a good point. And he is slowly getting closer and closer, and he's clearly Bredon's able to read him, and he knows that Kvothe is somewhat novice at this and in this world. I mean, I assume he's picking that up. It seems as much, right? Mm-hmm. So it does seem like, and clearly he's capable. He's playing him. Well, like you were saying a moment ago, it is like when you play chess with somebody that just knows how the pieces move. That's all these magpies coming to him. But then when you play with somebody that's like a seasoned veteran that knows particular moves, that's who Bredon is. I mean, he's working Kvothe over through so many ways by bringing the tack board, by talking about the rings and all these other things, offering value while even being upfront and honest about what he's doing and talking about what all these other people are doing with no success. So he's literally addressing the subject of what Kvothe's not supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And getting more from him by doing it. That's great.
Yeah, he's a really interesting character. I like him. I'd like to find out what the fuck's going on with him.
Yeah. Now that I think about that, and I guess you mentioned it, but I'm seeing it more clearly here. This is literally like the way he plays his tack game. He's going in knowing Kvothe is being defensive. He's going directly right into it and even confronting him by talking about it and still getting a piece of what he wants and still making progress. Yeah. It's interesting. It's great. I mean, again, Rothfuss killed it with this.
And then we got chapter 58 titled Courting. In this chapter, the Maer calls on Kvothe to come to his rooms. They talk about why he brought Kavoth there, what his purpose is, and then the mayor sends Kavoth to Caudicus to get his medicine.
Yeah, this is pretty cool where we get back to, it's kind of like we check back in with Kavoth's anxieties and irritation from, he's basically held captive to a degree, and got the ticking time bomb reminder of the loot and Hawk. It's funny how it's not just the loot, it's Denna's case, right? So it's like that it becomes that. I mean, she gave him a gift, but it's her case.
Yeah. Yeah, and then so Stapes comes in and says the mayor wants to see him, and Kavoth says, I noticed the manservant looked worn around the edges. His eyes were weary as if he hadn't been sleeping enough. And so...
Well, and the other interesting part about it is also Stapes shows up. So everything we just heard about, there's significance in the fact that Stapes is there this time.
Well, so you could see like Stapes would be the runner boy for the mayor. The mayor's not going to send just some... You wouldn't expect the mayor to send like some random kid. He would have his manservant do that for him.
No, but in the past, hasn't he just sent a note?
It could be. I don't know. But
it seemed like this is more of an emergency. Yeah.
He's sick, and so he's not going to call in just some random person. He's going to have his manservant do that. But the fact that he looked worn around the edges, his eyes were weary as if he hadn't been sleeping enough. Obviously, when you're doing a reread, that stands out because you know how much Stapes cares for the mayor. And so this is tearing him up, seeing him like this. And it's stressing him out. And you don't know that the first time you go through it. The first time you go through it, and you're suspicious of him, especially when you see that him and Stapes and Caudicus are meeting. You don't know if you can trust Stapes. You don't know if he's working, against the mayor. But going back through it, you see, like, this dude's worried.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, even the introduction, I remember from the introduction of Stapes to Kavoth, and you kind of don't like him because you're kind of team Kavoth. You know what I mean? And Stapes he's suspicious of Kavoth, which he should be. Given his character, he 100% should be. But it's also just like, it's an interesting thing doing like this grosser in nice people's clothing. It's like you kind of feel like you can't trust him because the author's telling us there's something more to this dude. Like, like he's playing a part. You know what I'm saying? But it's an interesting way to do it because it's not like the way that he's doing it, it's not like it's underhanded. It's just like this dude doesn't fit in and he's trying to. That's not necessarily a sinister thing, but it's off-putting to some degree, which puts a weird sort of pill in our head about Stapes. And yeah, you're right. I mean, on rereads, we lose that mystery, but we still get the benefit of realizing all this makes sense. Like the way he's acting makes total sense, and he is the ultimate, loyal.
Yeah, he's stressed out, and he doesn't trust Kavoth. He doesn't know what the fuck this kid's doing. And he's super loyal. So, yeah, It seems really weird to have a manservant, or to be a man. Just that phrase in itself, it sounds so weird. Like what? Yeah, they didn't invent butler.
Yeah, manservant.
Should have named him Jeeves.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he goes and sees Alvaron, who's laid up in bed, looking pale and thin. His eyes were still clear and sharp, but today they held something else, some hard emotion. I like this part too. He's like, "Do you know how old I am, Kavoth?" He said without preamble. "No, Your Grace. What would your guess be? How old do I seem?" I caught the hard emotion in his eyes again. Anger, a slow, smoldering anger, like hot coals beneath a thin layer of ash. Like, this dude is not happy with his lot in life. Like, he is used to being powerful, and he is very angry that he is put in a position where he is frail, and there's nothing he can do about it.
Yeah, I mean, and again, this gets back to that inherent versus whatever power, right? I mean, he's checked if he's not physically able in another way, right? So like to be able to lose that. I've never really had that. I've never had like injuries and things like that. But when something like that, well, I guess I've had one or two sort of things where it affects one psychologically as well. And yeah, especially in his position, he's used to getting everything he wants when he wants it.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like the type of guy that would like lay and pray to God to heal his wounds.
No.
Like he seems like the type of guy that would be like shaking his fist at God for doing this to him.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's funny. It's funny you can say that. When you say that, I 100% agree. And it's funny that we know this character that well. That's how well Rothfuss wrote this dude. He's like Lieutenant Dan, right?
Yeah.
That's who came to mind. He's like, fuck you.
Yeah.
This is a face-off. It's you and me.
That's all you got. Shit. Bring it.
I really respect that approach, by the way. I think it's pretty great, man. I mean, at least
it'd be ballsy. Like, I mean, like,
well,
you know, even if you don't believe, like, you know,
at least you're white knuckling.
You're taking a chance. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, at least you're going for it, I guess, is what I respect about it. It's like, well, at least going for it takes at least some courage in that sense. Tempting fate, obviously, that's kind of like the definition of it, basically. But
yeah, get up them pearly gates and guys like, hey, you remember when you were talking shit?
You remember that? Just waiting.
Oh, you want me to play it back? I got it. Pop in the DVD. I got all of it.
He still does DVDs?
Yeah.
That's like, all I got. All I do is VHS. And he's like, get it up. Like literally has someone roll in like we had in high school, the TV strapped to a aluminum cart. They, you know, Peter rolls it in.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, bring it in. Pop in the VHS, rewind. Just hold on a second. We're going to fast forward to this spot. I like that. I like thinking like they literally have the technology of high schools in the late 80s, early 90s.
Tape starts playing and it's all snow. God damn it.
You know what? I know. Hey, it's me. I know what happened. You know what happened. You know what's happening now, right?
Like the idea of God saying, God damn it. That's just what it Oh, man. But yeah, so he guesses 51, and the mayor's like, never ask a young man your age. I'm 40, with a birthday next span. You're right, though. I look 50 years if I look a day. Some might even say you were being generous. So this dude is super sick. Super sick. Yeah. And he's like, this damnable sickness has crept on me the last month, adding gears and making me feel them. I have spent my life tending to my lands, but I have been lax in one regard. I have no family and no heir. Do you mean to take a wife, your grace? He sagged against his pillows. The rumors have finally gotten around, has it? No, your grace. I guessed it from what you'd said in some of our conversations. And I like this aspect. I think it's kind of subtle, but and as he's finally going to pursue a relationship with Maelwyn, that's when it seems like Caudicus is like, all right, time to take this fucking dude out.
Yeah, you mentioned that a while back, which is interesting because we talked about Caudicus as being like, perhaps he's not as evil as he seems. He's serving a purpose, right? Maybe he's Amyr. Maybe he's preventing what needs to be prevented, at least from the way they see things.
Yeah.
Right. It's interesting because before you had mentioned it, I hadn't really considered it. It's so easy to look at Caudicus and just say, which you should always check yourself, especially with Rothfuss writing and how he does it in this book, is that every time it seems like, well, someone's that way, there's probably more to it, you know? And like that's why Ambrose is a slam jam poetry, you know, phenom, and he's going to end up being awesome. Yeah, he's going to end up being awesome because he seems like such a bratty jackass. And maybe him is involved as well. But anyway, not to get off topic there. But yeah, it's one of those things where, but you know, and it's funny too because when we read Caudicus, it's like I actually kind of like him, and I forgot that I did. Like he's not necessarily off-putting from the get-go. You know? No. He has a decent personality.
He's not a bad dude, and he makes a good drink and good medicine. He poisons people, pretty cool.
Well, you don't know that when you first meet him.
Yeah.
But But yeah, no, it's interesting. Yeah, what you point out there, the timing is obviously important.
Yeah, I mean, because it obviously it seems like the sickness is stepping up at this moment, and like to the point where Kavoth, when he took him off it, he didn't know if the Maer would survive the night.
Yeah.
So I mean, and the Maer, had been occasionally turning down his medicine. So it seems like it's too big of a circumstance that he's trying to pick up Melwyn now, and then this is the time where like he's on fucking death's door.
Yeah, and that
so it stands out.
Yeah, and that would also show. Well, I guess even the mayor thinks there's rumors going around, so I guess it's not far fetched to think that Caudicus would find this out. Even though, you know what I'm saying? Because, I mean, when Kavoth is like, does he know? And he's like, absolutely not. What the fuck, man? Yeah. Don't blow up my spot. But, I mean, if Caudicus is doing it because of that, then clearly he knows. He knows his plan, at least to some degree. Of course, he's been there for like over a decade or a dozen years.
So he points out that if I am to be married, it must be to someone suitable, someone from a family well-positioned as my own. Not only that, but this cannot be a marriage of alliance. The girl must be young enough, and cleared his throat at papery noise, to produce an heir, several if possible. He looked up at me. Do you begin to see my problem? Just the bare shape of it, your grace. How many such daughters are there? He's like, a bare handful, but it can't be one of the young women the king has under his control. Bargaining chips and treaty sealers. My family has fought to hold our plenary powers. My family has fought to hold our plenary powers since the founding of Ventus. I won't negotiate with that bastard Roderick for a wife. I won't remit a grain of power to him. How many women are beyond the king's control, your grace? One. The word fell like a lead weight. And that is not the worst of it. The woman is perfect in every way. Her family is respectable. She is educated, young, beautiful. The last word seemed to come hard for him. So he's got a very, very specific woman that he has to marry. Like, that's some rough shit. Like, you go onto a dating app and you're like, only this one. It has to work.
Well, I mean, it does make it a little bit easier in the sense that, okay, I'm focusing 100% of my effort on this. No distractions.
Yeah, and I mean, he is like, he's in a king ding-along position where, if you're like, fucking, Elon Musk, you probably have a better time at that, just shooting at one, shooting your shot at one person, focusing on the one person. You got a much higher chance of success.
Well, I do.
But he's also, can't fucking get out of bed looking fucking old and on death's door. That's a hard sell.
The revelation that comes out of this, I think, is tremendous. It tells you a lot about the Maer. It makes me like the Maer a lot more. It builds him out as much. It's not just being a superficial character in the sense of, it's one of these things that Rothfuss is doing with the Maer, where he's putting yourself in the shoes of someone who's still a person. He's still an individual. He's still a real person. And he still wants someone to marry him. He wants this girl to marry him for him, not because of his position, which again, that makes it a lot more respectable, because Kavoth says what you would think, where it's like, well, your position, she'll do it, right? Like, because you're the dude. You're the king of Vent, man. So you can make this happen. King of Vent. No, I know, but I'm just, I know. I'm just saying.
Don't fucking slight Roderick.
Yeah, you're a big, huge Roderick fan over here. So, but yeah, you know what I'm saying, though. I mean, basically, that's Kavoth's point, is like, because of your position, and then he stops him where it's like, would you marry a woman you had bought? No, your grace. Neither will I. The thought of using my position to persuade this girl. Huh?
I said, is she Russian?
Why do you say that?
Because if I'm going to buy a bride, I want to buy a Russian one. That's going to play heavy into it.
Well, from what I hear, there's a lot of single women in countries like Rwanda and just all these different random African countries. There's a lot of former royal women that have a ton of gold that are hooking up with random guys throughout the United States. They've never met the girls, but they're coming and they're bringing a lot of gold with them. I keep hearing about these rumors.
Yeah, there's I've met a ton of Nigerian princes lately.
No, that's it. Nigeria is the big one.
Yeah.
Zimbabwe, yeah, but especially Nigeria, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good thing. That shows you. I really respect Nigeria and the fact that how untouched the regality is with the rest of the world. Like, I mean, they're just willing to shoot the shit with regular Joes and have a conversation, hook you up with some money. It's pretty fucking.
Oh, and how many?
Sweet culture.
How many are there? I mean, it seems like a lot.
I think it's just one guy. Huge. I think it's just one dude, and he's just. Well, I've talked to. He's very, very lonely, and he likes to fucking make pen pals.
Well, even with dudes, and the guys think it's a woman, so he's catfishing just all over the place.
No, he would never do that.
It seems like he's doing that because according to the guys I've spoke to, it's a woman.
Don't say that about my friend.
Your personal friend?
No.
I haven't given him too much money yet.
No, just what he needed to hook me up. But so
no, it's great. It's a great. Well, actually, sorry. So there's one thing that we skipped over that I did want to mention. That I kind of mentioned this before, but I think it's a sort of important thing to point out, where he does say that it used to be the case when Kavos says everyone sees you as the world's first bachelor. And the mayor says, that used to be the case. My father tried to marry me off when I was younger. I was rather strong-headed about not taking a wife at the time. That's another problem with power. If you possess too much, people don't dare point out your mistakes. Power can be a terrible thing. So it's that interesting sort of dynamic that gets put in. And I know I talked about this earlier, but he goes on to say it takes away your choices. It gives a man opportunities, but at the same time, it takes away others. My situation is difficult, to say the least. And, that's where Kavoth's like, yeah, it's hard for me to feel bad for, somebody in his position. But, as he's laying there and pretty much dying, he kind of did.
Yeah. Yeah, and so he guesses that, he's going to have, the mayor's going to use him to court Maelwyn Lackless. And he's
himself.
Like, yeah. He's like, I felt the heat of the mayor's anger before I turned to see it. I beg your pardon, your grace. I've overstepped myself. Is this another one of your guesses then? Yes, your grace. And so he fucking calms down. He points out, like, I'm just not used to having these conversations. Grouchy, got fucking diarrhea. I'm just having a bad day, and I don't like people fucking guessing my shit. But he would hate Bredon. He would fucking hate Bredon.
I was gonna say it's really interesting because he's literally like, this is literally what they're talking about, and he's about to tell him.
Yeah.
The fact that he guesses right before he can tell him, like, dude's a brat, man.
Yeah.
Like, pretty severely.
I wanted to fucking tell you. I wanted it to be a surprise.
Forget it. Off with your head. I'm not going to do anything.
Birthday's over. No surprise party. He guessed it. It's over. Everybody go home.
He is that dude, man.
You fucking ruined it. You ruined it. It's like, I don't know. There was like 13 cars in the driveway. The lights were out. I just guessed. Seemed pretty obvious. Fucking ruined it. Yeah, and so he asked him why he's so secretive, and he's like, I prefer to move at a time of my own choosing. Rumors force us to act before we're ready and ruin situation before it comes fully ripe. And I'm curious about that because, like, that's kind of a weak fucking response. Like, why? Who cares? Like, that just kind of seems weak. Like, maybe the mayor has, he's more understanding of the dangerous aspects of, like, people would want to keep them apart. I don't know if he's telling Kavoth the whole truth there, just because, like, gossip, because you're worried about, like, KISSING.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, plus she already has a tremendous amount of suitors to begin with. It's not like they're just going to ratchet it up because they know the mayor's getting involved.
Yeah, and like she doesn't know that, that she's an option for the mayor. Like she's completely oblivious to this as he's having her, come over to his castle.
I mean, and then also especially she knows how many suitors are out there. She's royalty.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like they don't know. They're oblivious to this shit. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So it's all about marrying the families together and shit. She's probably just waiting this out too.
Yeah. So, and Kvothe asks, I know you hope to court the lady, your grace, but I don't know how. Do you want me to compose a letter or two, write her songs? Will I climb balconies by moonlight to leave flowers on her windowsill, dance with her wearing a mask, claiming your name as my own? I gave him a wan smile. I'm not much of a dancer, your grace. And Alvaron thought that joke was hilarious.
Yeah. There was another part earlier that he said something and he thought it was like super funny. Something about like he used
like a court load. Yeah, a court load. Like
good one.
He's like,
you got me.
So the rumors have gone around. There's a court load of rumors. Like, haha, hilarious pun.
Yeah, I thought that was stupid. Like, what? That was dumb. Like, okay. Yeah, all right. There's a bunch of basketball players that are spreading this rumor. Is that what it was? Is that what he meant by court load? Yeah, a lot of Yao Ming's involved.
Super, super dirty shit. Puns are almost always bad. But then,
that's why they're fun.
Then he sends him off to see Caudicus and, tells him to fucking keep the shit on the DL. Quote, and he specifically says that. That was a weird choice that he said, keep the shit on the DL, yo. That was a weird choice for Rothfuss. He doesn't usually write like that, but that's what's in this book.
Actually, he did seem to get a little out of it towards the end, where he was acting a little bit strange, I thought. Like, so he lays back, closing his eyes. As I left, I heard him speaking faintly. Sometimes they don't give it knowingly. Sometimes they don't give it willingly. Nevertheless, all power. Like, he's just kind of fucking rambling after Kvothe's already left.
Yeah, it kind of sounded a little rapey.
Okay, you could go there with it. It did seem like he's like fantasizing about.
Yeah,
he's just thinking how this mellowing thing's going to work out.
Sometimes they won't give it up, but
I'll
tell you what, you put me in this position of power.
If you
okay, Harvey.
Tonality is pretty important.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden he says it like that, and that is what he says.
Yeah. It's like, okay, Harvey, I'll go get your medicine. You fucking chill out.
That's funny.
But yeah.
He's, well, I mean, I guess it speaks to the fact that he's just kind of like teetering. But yeah, it seemed a little odd the way that came in. But I guess he was getting rapey.
And then in chapter 59, it's titled Purpose. And in this chapter, Kvothe goes and meets Caudicus. He plays the role of a self-important noble who's writing a story about the different families around this world. And Caudicus makes the medicine for him, gives him a little tidbit of information, and then Kvothe goes back to the mayor, and he lets him know that he believes Caudicus is poisoning him.
Yeah, he does some great acting, Kvothe, here. Pretty tremendous, actually, because there is a little bit more nuance than just being like, "Oh my gosh, it's a dragon." I mean, it's not just that; it's also like not knowing certain things that he obviously already knows, and just kind of the way he plays. I mean, we'll go into it, but even the way he has to be like, I mean, he makes up this book, right, and it plays perfectly into Caudicus's ego. The fact that he has knowledge about these things, but then also he seems to really be like a gossip monger who enjoys it. But then Kvothe even has to he has to tamper it, where he's just like, oh, no, I can only do 2 families at once, which makes him seem kind of like not capable of, doing, being able
walking
to handle
and chewing gum.
Well, yeah, like a larger workload. But in actuality, he's like, dude, I don't fucking get caught up talking to this dude. Like, I don't want to hear all your bullshit. I
Yeah.
don't want to get these conversations about this shit. It's not a real thing. So I don't want to hear about all these other families. But it works out great.
How was your day? Oh, let me tell you, it was a long one. Like, oh, fuck.
Never mind. Never. I was being polite.
This
is why.
I take it
That's
back.
a great example.
I'm just saying, hey, hey, hi.
That's a great example of why I don't engage the chit chat at the risk of that happening.
Yeah.
Or it's just like, oh God, just never mind. How do I bail? Where's the bail button?
But yeah, I like too when he does that little like, is that a dragon? I pointed to a huge stuffed crocodile that hung from one of the ceiling beams. You have to understand some arcanists are more territorial than sharks, blah, blah, blah. And then Caudicus goes, he says, Caudicus closed the door behind me, chuckling, no, it's an alligator. Quite harmless, I assure you. I like that fact that Kavos he's like, is that a dragon? And he's like, it's a stuffed crocodile. And then Caudicus, Mr. Know-It-All still gets wrong. No, it's an alligator. It's like, nope, wrong.
No, it was a crocodile. You don't know the difference.
Yeah. Yeah, just little, smarty pants Kavoth over Caudicus. But yeah, and then so he tells him that, the Maer, actually the Maer's medicine is half my business. I saw a faint, irritated line between his eyebrows and hurried to correct whatever he might be thinking. I was speaking with the Maer earlier. I gave the Bear's pause as if I was unreasonably proud of this, and he asked me if I might bring him his medicine after I finished speaking with you. The line disappeared. Certainly, Caudicus said easily. It would save me the trip to his rooms. But what is the matter you wish to speak about? So obviously, as soon as he talks about the medicine, it's like, I need to talk to you about this. Caudicus is like, what? Who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
So it raises hackles real quick because obviously he's doing some dirty shit.
That again, though, is a great part of his acting. I gave the Barris pause as if I was unreasonably proud of this. So those little touches are big. It helps, obviously, that he knows how to read people as well as he does. And he reads Caudicus from the get-go and plays him well.
Yeah, and he builds his ego up here. He tells him he's looking to write almost like a genealogy on the different families, but just more of like to a gossip book that, tells some stories about the different families. And he says, the Mayor said you're quite the authority on the old families and said he'd be pleased if I called on you. Compliment had its desired effect, and Caudicus puffed himself up ever so slightly. I don't know if I'd consider myself an authority, he said with false modesty, but I'm a bit of a historian. He raised an eyebrow at me. You must realize the families themselves would probably be a superior source of information. And he, talks about like he's trying to get information specifically on the Lackless family.
Mm. And we get some big pieces here. Big pieces about, I don't think we had heard about, am I wrong? We hadn't heard about the Lackless box or the Lackless door before here, right?
No, this is the first time we're hearing about this. We haven't really heard much about the Lackless family, if anything. I maybe like a bare hint of their name. I can't even remember, other than like that poem and that kind of stuff. But yeah, so this is our first, like, we're starting to get more on the Lackless family. But, he says they're a treasure trove of stories. And he starts making the medicine. I like the aspect of it is like he's telling the story, and then Kavoth is just watching him make this medicine. Mm-hmm. He's like, he moved behind a work table and lit a pair of blue flame candles. I took care to look suitably impressed, even though I knew they were just for show. Caudicus shook a portion of dried leaf onto a small hand scale and weighed it. Do you have any trouble accepting rumor into your research? Not if it's interesting. And he was silent while he carefully measured a small amount of clear liquid from a glass stopper bottle. From what I understand, the Lackless family has an heirloom. Well, not an heirloom exactly, but an ancient thing that dates back to the beginning of their line. Which, if the line goes all the way back to Iaxis, is super ancient.
Yeah.
And this also, because I do think Iax is the OG Lackless, I do think that this is Fabrianial Doors of Stone type of shit. I think that he created the Fae, and I think he probably specifically created Faerinial and all these little different access points to all the different roads of the world, all the waystones. I think we're going to find that Iax is the one who created all this shit, and then they fucking locked him behind his, his own doors.
So in the box is the key. It's Celatos's eye. It's what's in the box?
Yeah, I don't know. Don't know. I obviously it'll have some kind of importance with the door, you would think. But the fact that he does talk about the door, and he's like, I've heard that on the oldest parts of the Lackless lands and the oldest part of their ancestral state, there's a secret door, a door without a handle or hinges. Watch to make sure I was paying attention. There's no way of opening it. It is locked, but at the same time lockless. No one knows what's on the other side. This could also be, the 4-plate door. I mean, it could be that their land was, the Lackless land was where the university is located now, and the doors of stone are where, that behind that Lackless door is Faerinial, and then the doors of stone is the Circle of Greystones. That's what I suspect is the case. I just don't know if when they're describing the Lackless door, are they talking about the 4-plate door or are they talking about the doors of stone? I think it's one of those two, though. I think it's got to be one of those two doors.
Yeah, I think that makes sense unless it's some other door we haven't heard of.
Yeah,
which seems a bit odd.
But I do think that that's likely the case, that behind the 4-plate door is the Faerinial, and behind the doors of stone is Iax, and I think the doors of stone are likely the Circle of Greystones. But also, one thing we talked about how Caudicus might be Amyr, but the fact that he brings this up, he points at the Lackless doors, throws a little bit of a pebble into that theory. Because why the fuck would he talk about that? Why would, if you're Amyr, the Amyr are super secretive. Why would you drop a fucking dime on such a massive piece of information? And what the ways I could kind of see is maybe the Amyr hired Caudicus, and because like the best guess is who would want to stop the Maer from marrying Melwyn? I think Caudicus is clearly trying to stop their relationship from getting together. He's trying to prevent him from having an heir. So to me, that's either got to be King Roderick or it's got to be the Amyr, and trying to prevent a Lackless heir because of the poem, and there's got to be a Lackless heir to get behind the door, a male that brings the blood or whatever it's called. So I think it's got to be one of those two. It's the Amyr trying to stop him from having an heir, or Roderick trying to stop him. And I think it could be, though, that the Amyr hire Caudicus, but I think what could happen is that the Maer believes that Roderick is responsible.
Okay.
And I think that could, end up being part, because I do think the Maer is the penitent king, and he's one side of the Civil War, and I think that it could be that he is involved in the death of, say, King Roderick, and then there's a fight for power between him and some other figure for control of Vent to be the king of Vent. I think that is likely. Well, I think King Roderick, I don't think he's going to make it out of the third book. And
so, I mean,
and I think I think the Maer could likely be involved in it.
Instead of hiring Caudicus, it could be they influence him to do this, right? I mean, instead of, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, the choosing of the word hire, it could just be like they convince him this is the right thing. This is what is the noble thing.
Someone's got, I mean, there's got to be a reason. Like, the fact that Caudicus is spilling the beans on that kind of information makes me think that he might not be too hip on like the deeper secrets of the world. But I mean, he could easily be a guy, because like, I mean, the Maer gives him everything. I mean, this dude's fucking in a primo position. So to get him to turn on it, there's got to be something involved. I mean, I doubt it's as simple as like, we paid him money because the mayor will give him fucking whatever he wants.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't think he's just I also don't think he's just an independent agent of chaos. There's not enough.
No.
There's not
but
enough
I do.
there.
So I think he's either part of a group, and then it's just weird that he said that he gave that piece of information. He's part of the Amyr and he gave it, or that someone brought him into the fold and he's just a blabbermouth. So I don't know. I mean, we obviously don't have any answers, but I do think that there's going to be more to Caudicus, and I think I do believe what will come out of it is they don't talk about what Caudicus told the mayor, but I think what will come out of it is that Caudicus pointed him in the direction of King Roderick, or the mayor is going to use it as an excuse to go after King Roderick.
When you say Caudicus told the mayor, what do you mean?
When they catch Caudicus and, kill him or cut off his thumbs or whatever they end up doing to him. They don't really say. Stapes is like, he took care of it. But they catch Caudicus. And so they obviously torture him, and they're going to get some information out of him. And so what I think is likely going to happen in book 3 is that the mayor is either going to he's going to be, he was made to believe that King Roderick was involved in his poisoning. He was responsible for it, or that he makes assumptions and he's wrong about them. But I think this poisoning, I think, is going to come back to the mayor pointing, Kavoth or pointing an assassin at King Roderick.
I mean, I guess, if nothing else, it gives him a justification. It gives him, he can utilize it if he wants to. He already has reason to not. I mean, he has to give fealty to King Roderick as it is, right?
Yeah, he does not like this situation. He wants to be his own man.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. So this is like a massive factor. And then once he gets his health back, now it's like, all right, what else is in my way? How else can I, become bigger than what I was? This is clearly huge. I mean, anybody in a position like him, they want to grow their world, right? They want to grow their power. And
it seems clear that, people are trying to pit these two again to cause a civil war. Like, they're robbing the money that the mayor has to pay to Roderick is being robbed and waylaid by the bandits. And so that could cause a rift that, if the mayor couldn't fucking pay Roderick or something along those lines, that could cause a rift. And this poisoning, that could be used to cause a rift between the mayor and Roderick. So you could see a situation where the mayor has Roderick killed, and then there's a civil war in the aftermath over who's going to be the king of Vent.
Yeah, I guess it is. It is interesting that he does. It is interesting that he talks about this. That he talks about the lackless Bach, the lackless door to Kavoth.
Yeah.
I mean, this kind of goes back to, like, I don't know, man, one of our early episodes, like 6 or 7.
4.
Where we talk about, is it 4? Where we talk about, yeah, it would be where, well, it kind of goes all the way back to why didn't Abinthy, or the whole sort of, why didn't Abinthy tell Kavoth, how to take care of himself? Why does he leave him after he fucking nearly kills himself, right? The whole, the problem with the lungs in the air. It's like he's leading him down some path. So maybe Caudicus just says this just to lead Kavoth down some path. It's a bit odd, right? Yeah. For that just to be the reason. It should tell us a lot more about Caudicus, right, than it does Kavoth.
Yeah.
Why he's getting this information now, why it's coming from this individual, and that's one of the big questions about Caudicus, and that's why we should find out more about him, is that we don't know much about him to begin with, and he leaves pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's got to be something going on there, because they left it hanging. We just don't know what the result people. When they caught him. Yeah, but I mean, like, that's when they catch him. Yeah, and then when they catch him, we don't hear like what the resolution
Yeah.
was, like what exactly happened. It was just left hanging. So there's going to be more to that, and I think what it will likely be is a catalyst in creating the Civil War, and could be a catalyst in what causes Kavoth to go down the path to becoming a Kingkiller.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll obviously, won't really get any kind of resolution until book 3, but I'll have more to say on kind of exactly how I think the king killing's going, but we'll come up to that here maybe next episode or the one after that. But yeah, then so he goes back, he sees the mayor, the mayor's like, "You took your sweet time, your grace." He motioned me forward again, more sharply this time. "Give me my medicine," he said thickly, "then leave. I'm tired." "I'm afraid it's rather important, Your Grace." Both eyes opened, and the smoldering anger was there again. "What?" he snapped. I moved to the side of the bed and leaned close. Before he could protest my impropriety, I whispered, "Your Grace, Caudicus is poisoning you."
Oh.
Dun, dun, dun. And then he did that. He did that noise after that. He goes, dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, and then the mayor's like, "What the fuck?
Yeah.
What are you doing?" Not to go back to the point we were just talking about, but it does, I mean, the way that Caudicus is like, "I travel quite a bit. Many of the noble houses are eager to host the mayor's own arcanist. This makes me privy to some interesting facts." I mean, this tells us in that instant when we're reading it, is like, dude, Kavoth should be pumping this dude for information about the Amyr and the Chandrian. Here's a chance. Here's like a real chance to get that info. Come to find out, he's going to get that with the mayor, or at least they have those discussions which get him closer, which is fucking great. And really,
he comes to us with that gossipy shit and like the self-important shit. He comes across as someone who could get wrapped up in a group like the Amyr, and he's like, "Oh, I'm becoming one of the Amyr, and like I'm working for big guys," but they're just
telling everybody.
Yeah, they're just using him for a purpose, but he's not like one of them because he can't fucking keep his mouth shut.
Yeah, it seems like that makes them look sloppy if they bring him into the fold instead of just utilizing him on the out exterior.
Yeah, but you could see where they could like build up his self-importance and make him think he's like becoming big time, and he's becoming bigger than the mayor. He's in the secret society, joining some secret society and doing their work, and they're just manipulating the shit out of him.
It kind of plays into his like what we know about his character too.
Yeah. So I could totally see a situation like that. But the fact that he talks about the shit is the part that really gives me pause on the Amyr, because they're so fucking secretive. Flies in the face of everything we hear about the Amyr and what it seems that they're doing in the world. So it'd be a little bit weird if he is.
Unless it's intentional.
There's something else, yeah.
Loose lips sink ships, right? Maybe that's the idea, is he's setting that. Well, still, it's a little strange, man. Because I mean, it doesn't really fit.
In the Amyr, like, oh, hey, go put Gabby McTalks-a-lot with the mayor. What?
Why?
Yeah.
Wait,
Got this secret society, and you pick the guy who can't fucking shut up about the lackless door?
Put him in a position of high power?
Yeah.
That's an interesting move, where it's just nothing but gossip mongers all around the place.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good call, Carl. Yeah, great idea. Yeah, let's do that.
Smooth move, Salatos. Really fucking nailing that leadership role.
Salatos, he's putting
people in the right spot.
He represents the bad management style.
And they're like, dude, we got Grey Dalcinti working in secret for the Chandrian. Like, he would have been perfect for this role. He doesn't fucking talk.
Yeah, there you go. 100%. Get him out there, agent of chaos, making shit happen.
That motherfucker keeps his mouth shut. Fucking spending Caudicus who can't fucking shut up for 2 seconds.
It's like he gets business cards made that say Caudicus, bottom, Amyr. Like, no, dude. Yeah. No, man. We've talked about this.
You cannot put that you're a member of the Amyr. Like, what if I just like get an A and I wear like a shirts, but it's always got A? I'm like, oh, it's my favorite letter. Wink, wink.
Yeah, they don't know. They won't know. They won't know. It'll be fine. It'll be cool.
Like, I'm gonna fucking kill this dude. But yeah, so next week we're gonna have the resolution of him telling the mayor about the poisoning him. He convinces him somewhat, and then the mayor gives him some money to go make him a potion. He's gonna run into Denna, and then we're gonna get kind of the beginning of the fall, like as far as the mayor starting to get better, and they're kind of in and out whether it's going to work or not. Whether
we got the birds,
he's doubting to both.
Yeah,
right? The bird cage.
That's great. That's
so
awesome.
it's good. The tension's gonna build up a good bit over this poisoning.
For the very few readers or very few listeners that we have that have never read the books, it's just like the movie Birdcage. Just like it. Plays out so great.
Well, with 60 million, we probably got like a million listeners
that have never read the
books. Yeah,
well, they look forward to it. The Birdcage.
And they're like, all right. I mean, honestly, we get more out of just listening to these episodes. Like, you guys fill in all the blanks, and you have all the theories that are not even in the book.
Bam, got them.
Yeah, you cannot find out about the Mario brothers by reading these books. You can.
Yeah, you can't. It's not in there. Yeah, it's in the subtext.
It's in there.
That's the thing.
It's hidden though. It's like it's like someone handed you a piece of paper with that that ink, disappearing ink.
That's what it's like.
Yep.
Yeah,
we're the stuff that makes the ink appear again.
We're the black light. That's what we are. We're showing you Mario Brothers. We're showing you the Lone Ranger, the Slam Jam poetry stuff.
That makes the disappearing ink sound a little gross if you have to use black light to see it.
That's where your mind goes. Like thinking about these, the hotel expose,
yeah,
or motel.
Yeah.
I had a black light when I was in high school. It was cool. It wasn't for that.
You go and look at the beds and like, maybe someone like had a magic marker explode or something.
No, it's just white out. They were doing they were working on a term paper and it spilled, and somehow it spilled everywhere. That's what it is.
You see it. Like, that's a good thing to do to someone, like after they pass out in a hotel bed and they're like wake up and they're like drooling all over themselves, and just turn out the lights and black light it. Like, look where you had your face. You were licking that.
That's so gross.
Yeah. But all right, on that note, we will see you guys next week, and get yourself do the black light thing, before you lay down to go to bed.
Make sure you clean your sheets regularly, because who knows who's in that bed. You don't even know where you've been, frankly. So
yeah. All right, you dirty fucks.
You filthy beast. You filthy beast. Go wash your hands, you filthy beasts.
All right, we will see you guys next week. Peace out.
Yeah.